It's time for the Dreamers. Welcome and enjoy the storyline on this channel. It's time for the Dreamers. On a bright day, the public was suddenly shocked by some surprising news. A 40-year-old man was arrested on charges of kidnapping a child who had long been declared missing. The victim, known as A, was found to have been locked up by the suspect in a rundown warehouse for 12 years. A horrifying reality that had been hidden from the world for years. Several television stations also reported widely on the arrest of the suspect with the initial P, who was charged with kidnapping, confinement, and various legal and labor violations. Wearing a blue hat and a white mask, the suspect was under tight police escort. In the midst of a crowd of journalists who came with a barrage of questions, the man was escorted without showing much expression. According to police statements, Victim A showed signs of speech and hearing impairment. Authorities also suspect that the perpetrator had known about this condition long before planning the crime. When the police finally unlocked a hidden and nearly forgotten warehouse, an unexpected scene unfolded. It was revealed that the kidnapping victim was found in a cramped room filled with stacks of books. Amidst swirling dust and rickety shelves on the verge of collapse, the victim was seen sitting calmly alone, immersed in their reading as if the outside world never existed. The police immediately contacted their captain to report that the kidnapping victim had finally been found after being missing for years. At that moment, the victim's long hair covered most of their face. Their appearance looked extremely shabby, leaving a long trail of suffering that was hard to imagine. Based on the numerous scars found on their body, the victim is suspected to have experienced violence over a very long period of time. Not long after, the victim was rushed to the hospital to receive intensive care, with the hope that their condition could soon stabilize after years of living under torture. At the hospital where the victim was being treated, several reporters were already waiting in the waiting room to get the latest information. In fact, some of them were even willing to pretend to be patients just to get closer to the location where the kidnapping victim was being treated. Meanwhile, in one of the hospital rooms, a nurse was giving a report to the doctor in charge of the victim. The nurse explained that the victim's name was Shin Woo-jin, 18 years old, and that he was currently suffering from severe malnutrition as well as various external infections. In front of them, Shin Woo-jin just sat in silence. His gaze was empty, as if all emotions and hope had been eroded by time. Not a single word came out of his mouth. The doctor treating Woo-jin couldn't hide his sympathy. It was hard for him to imagine how someone could be so cruel, to lock up and torture such a handsome boy for 12 years in a dark and isolated warehouse. Not long after, the nurse standing next to the doctor explained that Woo-jin had also lost his hearing. Right after hearing that explanation, the doctor took a memo sheet and started writing something down. Through that note, the doctor tried to communicate with Woo-jin, asking him to introduce himself and say his name out loud. Woo-jin slowly turned his gaze toward the doctor. Meanwhile, the doctor kept waiting patiently, hoping the young man would respond. A few moments later, Woo-jin slowly opened his mouth. For the first time, the voice that had been suppressed for so long finally came out, and he called himself a bastard. In an instant, the doctor and nurse were stunned. It was the first time Woo-jin had spoken and revealed the identity that had long been buried in silence. Before he was rescued, Woo-jin had been exploited for labor by the kidnapper for years. Under the scorching sun, he was forced to work in the fields, plowing the land all day without any rest. Meanwhile, the kidnapper just sat leisurely under the shade of a tree, watching every move Woo-jin made as he kept working non-stop. After the work was done, inhumane treatment awaited him once again. The kidnapper threw a pot of rice into the shed where Woo-jin had been held captive for 12 years. Exhausted after working all day, Woo-jin immediately devoured the food ravenously. He grabbed a large handful of rice and shoved it into his mouth without hesitation. Seeing this, the kidnapper always called him a bastard who ate in a way he considered disgusting. When winter arrived and blizzards raged mercilessly, Woo-jin's suffering grew even worse. He could only sit in the dark, freezing shed, without a heater, without a thick jacket, and without any protection from the cold air that pierced to the bone. His body trembled violently. He struggled to fight against the cold that bound him. At the same time, he had to survive without proper food. Not even a warm drink to ease his suffering. In the midst of the torturous cold, a cockroach slowly crawled over a book lying on the warehouse floor. Without having time to think, The overwhelming hunger and human instinct to survive forced Wu Jin to do something he had never imagined before. He caught the cockroach and ate it. At that moment, Wu Jin truly had no other choice. The only thing he could do was survive, enduring the harsh winter while constantly fighting against the cold, hunger, and endless loneliness. Meanwhile, the doctor and nurse beside him could only stare in shock when they heard Wu Jin call himself a bastard. Both of them couldn't hide their shock, wondering just how severe the brainwashing the young man had experienced was, to the point that his own sense of identity had changed so drastically. Even after seeing the various wounds covering Wu Jin's body, they still couldn't imagine what kind of torture he had endured for years. Each scar seemed to hold a story of suffering too dark to imagine. In his heart, the doctor felt that the monster who had tortured Wu Jin truly deserved the harshest punishment for what they had done. A moment later, the doctor closed his eyes. Amidst all the horrifying truths that had been revealed, he still felt a bit of relief after seeing the results of the medical examination that had been conducted on Wu Jin. Suddenly, the doctor gently patted Wu Jin's shoulder. That simple touch startled Wu Jin. It was as if his body had been unfamiliar with human touch for too long. The doctor then explained that the results of the examination were not as bad as they had previously feared. Gently, the doctor once again stroked Wu Jin's shoulder. He tried to calm the young man and assured him that he was now in a safe place and could rest as much as he needed. For Wu Jin, that touch was the first warm gesture he had felt in 12 years. A simple touch that was enough to give him goosebumps and make his heart tremble instantly. Not long after, the doctor intended to leave the room for a while and planned to return soon. The nurse beside him offered to look after Wu Jin while the doctor was away. However, the doctor chose to handle and take care of Wu Jin personally. Shortly after that, the door to the treatment room slowly closed, creating a calm atmosphere in the room. As soon as the doctor left the treatment room, reporters swarmed him with questions about Wu Jin's condition. The police officers at the front of the treatment room quickly took control of the situation. They ordered the reporters to remain calm and not cause any commotion in the hospital. Meanwhile, the doctor treating Wu Jin looked increasingly annoyed by the presence of the reporters at the location. In a firm tone, he questioned the reason why the reporters were in the restricted area. He also questioned whether the tragedy that befell someone had turned into entertainment for them. In fact, the doctor demanded that the reporters show a little respect and courtesy toward the victim. Not stopping there, the doctor then asked the police how the reporters were able to enter the area. He wanted to make sure whether their permits had really been checked. One of the police officers then explained that the reporters did indeed have permission to enter. The doctor's frustration grew even more. He even threatened to report the reporters for alleged violations and actions considered disruptive. Hearing that, some of the reporters began to regret their decision to come to the hospital to cover the victim. In their minds, going to the crime scene seemed much better than staying at the hospital, which was now filled with tension and chaos. Meanwhile, in the treatment room, which was so quiet, only the sound of the IV drip could be heard, marking the slow passage of time. Wu Jin, who was still under medical supervision, was sound asleep on the hospital bed. A few moments later, his eyes slowly opened. At that moment, Wu Jin once again felt a deep silence. It was a quietness that felt both unfamiliar and familiar to him. His gaze then turned to a brightly lit lamp above his head. That simple light was something he hadn't seen in years, after living in darkness for so long. Wu Jin's gaze looked so empty, as if there was a great emptiness that had bound his heart all this time and still hadn't let go of its grip. Not long after, he glanced elsewhere in the room. Wu Jin slowly raised his left hand and looked at the IV tube that was delivering fluid into his body. However, there was something far more interesting than the tube. His attention was drawn to a patient across the room who was holding a cell phone. The device kept making notification sounds that rang out non-stop. Feeling disturbed by the constant repeating sound, Wu Jin slowly sat up and leaned his body against the bed. The middle-aged man across from him immediately noticed the movement. He immediately shifted his gaze and looked at Wu Jin, who had just woken up from his sleep. Confident that Wu Jin could not hear, the man quickly realized that the young man in front of him was the child who had become the victim of the kidnapping that was being widely discussed in the news. In his mind, he realized that Wu Wujin was someone who had gone through a very harsh and painful life. Even while reading the message that came through on his phone, the man muttered softly, imagining that Wu Wujin's life would probably become much more difficult from now on, even though he had been rescued. On the other hand, with an innocent gaze that was almost emotionless, Wu Wujin kept watching the man. From the patient identification board attached near the bed, Wu Wujin learned that the man's name was Kim Nam-soon. He was 57 years old, and he was undergoing treatment for an open fracture in his thigh. At that moment, Wu Wujin estimated that Kim Nam-soon's height was around 167 centimeters with a weight of about 60 kg. Not only that, he also noticed that Nam-soon's left hand looked very rough and dry. From his observation, this condition showed clear signs of dehydration. While Nam-soon was still busy with his phone, Wu Wujin kept observing every movement of the man carefully. He did not find a watch or a ring on either of Nam-soon's hands. From those small details, Wu Wujin immediately started building various possibilities in his mind. He speculated that Nam-soon was not someone interested in accessories, was used to doing physical work, and most likely did not have a partner. Based on all the signs he managed to gather, Wu Wujin began to piece together a more complete picture. He suspected that Kim Nam-soon was a construction worker who had an accident after falling from a height while working. In his mind, Wu Wujin even imagined how the accident happened. He estimated that Nam-soon fell from a fairly high place and unconsciously landed on his left foot first. However, the impact was too strong for his thigh bone to withstand the pressure. The bone shattered and then protruded due to the severe injury. The excruciating pain made Nam-soon scream hysterically when the incident happened. While Wu Wujin was still lost in his thoughts, imagining the accident and thinking about the first aid that should have been given at that time, he suddenly realized that someone had entered the treatment room. Apparently, the doctor who was treating him had returned. The doctor came in carrying warm food for Wu Wujin. The friendly smile on his face created a much more comforting atmosphere than before. He seemed to want to make sure that Wu Wujin had gotten enough rest. Meanwhile, Wu Wujin just sat silently, looking at the doctor without saying a word. While placing the food on the patient's table, the doctor encouraged Wu Wujin to eat right away. He understood that after everything he had been through, the young man must have been starving. With a warm smile, the doctor then handed Wu Wujin a spoon and fork so he could eat more easily. But on the other hand, Wu Wujin stared at the doctor intently. Instead of paying attention to the food in front of him, he focused more on observing the doctor's face, trying to read his character and personality like a micro-expression expert. At that moment, Wu Wujin noticed that the corners of the doctor's eyes drooped slightly, accompanied by fine wrinkles forming around his face. When the doctor smiled wider, Wu Wujin also saw the muscles in his cheeks lift upward. From the various features he observed, from the symmetrical lift of his cheeks and the natural wrinkles around his eyes to the upward movement of his cheek muscles and his balanced smile, Wu Wujin began to draw a conclusion. According to his assessment, that sincere smile showed that the doctor did not see him as a threat. While handing him the spoon, the doctor once again signaled for Wu Wujin to eat as much as he wanted. Now there was no one left to scold him just for eating or making a small mistake. For a moment, Wu Wujin looked stunned. In front of him was a bowl of warm rice, steaming seaweed soup, and various other side dishes that looked so appetizing. Slowly, he began to taste the food. Every bite brought flavors that seemed to dance on his tongue, something he hadn't felt in a very long time. The doctor then explained that the food was just regular hospital food, which might not be very special. Even so, he still hoped Wu Wujin would eat it heartily. But for Wu Wujin, the taste of the food was far more delicious than anything he had eaten in years. So impressed by the warmth and flavor, Wu Wujin immediately scooped up a spoonful of rice and ate it heartily. He also devoured the side dishes in a hurry. He drank the warm seaweed soup almost without pause, until he ended up choking. Kim Nam-soon, who had previously been so focused on his phone, finally turned his attention away. He looked at Wu Wujin, who was eating voraciously as if he didn't want to leave a single bit of food in front of him. Meanwhile, the doctor kept reminding Wu Wujin to eat more slowly. However, Wu Wujin didn't listen to anything the doctor was trying to say. In the end, all the hospital food provided for Wu Wujin was completely finished. He didn't even waste a single grain of rice left in the bowl. Carefully, he picked up the last grain and put it straight into his mouth. Seeing this scene, the doctor's sympathy for Wu Wujin grew even stronger. In his mind, he kept wondering how the young man could survive after enduring such a cruel series of hardships for 12 years. Not long after, the doctor reached into his pocket and took out the phone he kept there. A moment later, he turned around to answer the incoming call. During the call, the doctor learned that Wu Wujin's family had arrived at the hospital. Immediately, the doctor's face lit up with excitement. He quickly delivered the news to Wu Wujin, telling him that his father and mother would be coming to see him soon. Hearing the news, Wu Wujin was stunned. His eyes widened as if he couldn't believe what he had just heard. With a trembling voice full of disbelief, he began to mention the names of his mother, father, and family members, who still lingered faintly in his memory. The doctor confirmed this and assured him that his parents would soon be brought to the treatment room. Without wasting any time, the doctor quickly cleared away the dining utensils in front of Wu Wujin, then left the room. A moment later, the door to the treatment room closed again, leaving Wu Wujin alone, still filled with shock. Not long after that, Wu Wujin's gaze shifted to a clock hanging on the wall of the room. Apparently, he was trying to estimate how long it would take his parents to reach the treatment room where he was. His eyes kept following the movement, watching the clock's hands, counting every passing second with hope. 1 minute and 10 seconds had passed. However, his parents still hadn't arrived. When the time showed 1 minute and 21 seconds, something unexpected suddenly happened. It was as if a mysterious force descended from the sky and struck him. In an instant, Wu Wujin began to hear various sounds he had never experienced before. The sounds around him suddenly became so clear and so noisy. Even the ticking sound of the clock's moving hands sounded much louder than usual, leaving Wu Wujin confused by the strange sensation he was experiencing. Not only that, he also began to see the silhouettes of people passing by in the hospital corridor more clearly, while their footsteps sounded even more distinct to him. At that moment, Wu Wujin saw the silhouettes of 3 people appearing at the end of the hospital corridor. For reasons he couldn't explain, his heart began to beat faster as the 3 figures slowly approached his hospital room. A moment later, the 3 of them stopped right in front of the door to the room where Wu Wujin was. Even when the tips of their shoes stopped in front of the door, the sound of them scraping against the floor sounded so loud in Wu Wujin's ears, as if it struck directly into his consciousness. Meanwhile, Wu Wujin grew even more tense. His eyes widened, while a mysterious bond that was hard to explain felt even stronger within him. From behind the door, he also heard the doctor's voice explaining that the patient's condition and stability were the top priority, so they had to make sure Wu Jin didn't experience excessive shock. However, Wu Wujin could only stand frozen. He didn't move at all. A moment later, the door to the treatment room slowly began to open. At the same time, the bond he felt grew even stronger than before. Not long after the door was fully opened, a married couple appeared standing there, their faces filled with anxiety and hope. They looked so eager to reunite with the child who had been separated from them for years. With sparkling eyes filled with tears, the couple called out Wu Wujin's name. Meanwhile, Wu Wujin just looked at them with deep confusion, as if there was something that felt very familiar, but at the same time, it felt so unfamiliar to him. Unable to hold back the longing that had built up over the years, Wu Wujin's parents immediately ran toward their son. At the same time, the doctor tried to remind them not to startle Wu Wujin. However, the longing that had taken root so deeply made them unable to hold themselves back any longer. They ignored the warning and immediately hugged Wu Wujin tightly, releasing all the longing that had been buried in their hearts for so long. In the midst of a situation that left him confused, the 2 parents had no doubts at all. They were so sure that the child in their arms was the biological son they had been searching for all this time. Tears kept streaming down both of their faces. While sobbing, Wu Jin's father and mother kept apologizing for all the mistakes they felt they had made all this time. They kept blaming themselves for all the suffering Wu Wujin had to endure for years. However, in the midst of that longing embrace, something unexpected happened again. Suddenly, Wu Wujin's eyes widened. In an instant, he broke free from his parents' embrace and tightly covered both of his ears. Seeing that reaction, His parents were immediately filled with panic and confusion. They tried to understand what was happening and wondered if Wu Wujin was okay. However, Wu Wujin, who still couldn't make sense of it all, was unable to process everything that was happening at once and could only cover his ears tightly. Then, in the midst of confusion, fear, and an outpouring of emotions he couldn't understand, Wu Wujin began to scream hysterically. A few days later, as the sun shone over a densely populated settlement in Korea, life began to return to normal. However, for the family who had been missing one of their family members for years, that day felt very different. In the living room, Bomi received a call from her mother and told her that she had finished cleaning the whole house. After the call ended, she was left feeling confused. Wu Wujin's return made her curious, but also worried because their relationship would definitely feel awkward. Since Wu Wujin was found, Bomi had only met him a few times. Most of her brother's time was spent resting and recovering. The way he spoke, his attitude, and his movements all felt so unfamiliar. Moreover, Bomi didn't have any childhood memories that could serve as a bridge to get closer. Not long after, Bomi opened her phone and looked again at the photo of the warehouse where Wu Wujin was found, the cramped place that had been his world for 12 years. As she stared at the picture, she imagined how hard it must have been to live a life like that. In her mind, she felt that she might also become the same kind of person if she experienced a similar fate. Even so, he felt a bit relieved because the examination results confirmed that Wu Wujin's hearing did not suffer any permanent damage. His daydream was interrupted when the doorbell rang. His father and mother finally came home together with Wu Wujin. Bomi immediately greeted them warmly. His mother went straight to the kitchen to prepare dinner, while his father invited Wu Wujin into the house. With slow and hesitant steps, Wu Wujin finally entered the house he had been separated from for 12 years. Once inside, Wu Wujin just stood still with a blank stare, observing every corner of the house. Bomi tried to greet him with a warm smile, but Wu Wujin just looked away without giving any response. Wu Wujin then noticed the spacious, clean, and tidy living room, a sharp contrast to the cramped, shabby warehouse he had lived in before. His gaze then stopped at the row of family photos, including childhood pictures of himself and Bomi, memories he never truly had. Noticing his son's discomfort, the father warmly put his arm around Wu Wujin's shoulders. He then showed Wu Wujin where his room was, trying to make sure his son still remembered the place, while also suggesting that he take a look at his room before spending time with Bomi. Hearing that, Bomi was momentarily surprised. For her, their relationship was still filled with awkwardness, almost like two strangers who had just been reunited after a very long separation. Not long after, her mother approached Bomi and asked her to accompany Wu Wujin around the house, so that the two of them could slowly rebuild their closeness as siblings. Bomi initially refused her mother's request and chose to help prepare dinner instead. However, her mother remained persistent. According to her, accompanying Wu Wujin and starting to build a bond with him would be a much more meaningful help for the family right now. After persuading her daughter for quite a while, the mother finally returned to the kitchen to continue cooking. Soon after, the sound of the stove hissing began to fill the house. The warm aroma of cooking slowly spread to every room, creating a familiar and calming atmosphere. Meanwhile, Bomi finally accompanied Wu Wujin in his room. However, the atmosphere between them still felt very awkward. As Wu Wujin just sat in silence, observing every corner of the room, Bomi actually felt that the situation was much more tense than she had imagined. Not long after, Wu Wujin's attention was drawn to the neatly made bed, with clean sheets and a soft mattress that looked so comfortable. That simple sight felt very unfamiliar, yet so precious to someone who had spent 12 years of his life in a cold, miserable warehouse. With curiosity, Wu Wujin kept staring at the bed, trying to remember that the object was called a bed. His gaze then shifted to the window beside the bed, then swept across the entire room. He noticed the computer, the chair, and various other neatly arranged items. His face was filled with confusion, as if he found it hard to believe that such a comfortable room really belonged to him. A moment later, Bomi tried to lighten the mood by calling out to Wu Wujin. Hearing his name called, Wu Wujin slowly turned and looked at his younger sibling. When their eyes met, Bomi instantly fell silent. Unconsciously, his eyes began to well up with tears. His chest was filled with emotion when he saw Wu Wujin now, looking much healthier and more handsome compared to when he was first seen at the hospital. Not long after, Bomi handed a cell phone to Wu Wujin and began teaching him how to use it. Patiently, he taught him the basic steps, from turning on the phone to saving his father's, mother's, and his own numbers into the contact list. After finishing all the explanations, Bomi asked Wu Wujin to practice what he had just learned. Wu Wujin responded in a very formal manner, indicating that he understood all the instructions. The way he spoke left Bomi astonished, because it sounded too formal, even for a simple conversation between siblings. Bomi then tried to explain that Wu Wujin didn't need to speak so formally to Bomi. However, Wu Jin still maintained his way of speaking. At that moment, Bomi truly felt the distance that had formed during the 12 years of separation. Not long after, Bomi handed the phone back and asked Wu Wujin to turn it on. Calmly, Wu Wujin pressed the button on the side of the device. A few seconds later, the phone screen lit up. The sight amazed Wu Wujin. For someone who had been isolated from the outside world for 12 years, that technology felt like something truly new. Bomi then taught him how to create a new contact and asked Wu Wujin to save her phone number. While reciting the numbers one by one, Wu Wujin entered them quickly and skillfully without any difficulty. Seeing this, Bomi began to feel surprised. It was hard to believe that this was Wu Wujin's first time using a phone, because his fingers moved much more nimbly than her own. After finishing, Wu Wujin double-checked whether all the steps he had taken were correct, and whether he needed to repeat them. It turned out that the whole process had been carried out accurately. Wu Wujin's ability to learn new things in such a short time made Bomi even more amazed. The lesson continued. This time, Bomi taught him how to search for information on the internet. While showing the phone screen, she explained that the feature could be used to search for various things you want to know. After she tapped the search icon, Wu Wujin watched her every move closely, as if he didn't want to miss a single detail. After seeing the example, Wu Wujin immediately tried it himself. Without hesitation, he typed the one word that had always made him the most curious: family. Not long after, various pieces of information appeared on the screen. Wu Wujin read the explanation that family is a bond between people who are connected through blood relations, marriage, adoption, or other relationships. After that, he opened the image menu. Various photos of warm and harmonious families filled the screen. He observed each picture one by one until he slowly began to understand the meaning of the figures he had known all this time as father, mother, and younger sibling, the figures who were now so close to him. A few moments later, Wu Wujin slowly turned toward Bomi, who was still sitting beside him. With a much calmer gaze, he finally understood that the girl was his younger sister, someone connected to him by a bond called family. Seeing that understanding, Bomi responded with a warm smile, confirming that they were indeed bound as a family. Suddenly, the delicious aroma of the food drifted to Wu Wujin. His eyes widened with enthusiasm as he inhaled the scent drifting in from outside the room. In his mind, Wu Wujin briefly thought the aroma was perfume. He also remembered a book he had read while being confined in the warehouse, which explained that perfume had existed for about 5,000 years. Used in religious ceremonies and believed to be a means of communication between humans and the gods. Wu Wujin recalled the contents of the book he had read. It was mentioned there that in the past, perfume was made by burning fragrant branches, while modern perfume is a mixture of various scents and solvents to attract attention or build self-image. A moment later, Wu Wujin stood up. Full of curiosity, he assumed that the pleasant scent he smelled was perfume. He then started walking slightly hunched over, trying to find the source of the fragrance. Behind him, Bomi kept calling out to him. However, Wu Wujin's attention was completely captivated by the scent. He kept following its trail until he stopped right outside the room. The stronger the scent became, the greater his curiosity grew. Relying on his sharp sense of smell, Wu Wujin finally arrived at the dining table. On it were various warm dishes, such as steaming kimchi soup, steamed eggs, stir-fried sausages, bulgogi, and a variety of other appetizing foods. Wu Wujin's eyes widened again. It was then that he realized the scent he had been searching for was not from perfume, but from the delicious dishes served in front of him. Seeing Wu Wujin staring in awe, almost drooling, his mother immediately asked him to sit down, convinced that her son was very hungry. Not long after, his father placed a pot of kimchi soup on the table. With great pride, he explained that he had cooked the soup himself and that it tasted so delicious, it could make anyone forget everything around them. Hearing that explanation, Wu Wujin began to wonder if he could have a taste. His innocence made his father laugh, and he explained that what he said earlier was just a way to describe how delicious the dish was. After that, his parents started picking up various side dishes and filling Woo Woo-jin's rice bowl. His mother even wrapped a piece of meat in a lettuce leaf and fed it to him directly. As soon as the first bite entered his mouth, Woo Woo-jin's eyes widened. The warmth and delicious taste spreading across his tongue left him in disbelief. For someone who had lived in suffering for years, that food felt like it came from another world. Looking amazed, Woo Woo-jin said the food was so delicious it made him feel like he was floating. That innocence made his parents and Bomi burst out laughing. For the first time in a long while, the warmth of a family truly filled the house. Elsewhere, a very different atmosphere enveloped an interrogation room. In that dimly lit room, a detective revealed a shocking fact about the suspect's family. Based on the data they collected, members of the suspect's family had died one by one over the past 5 years. Every year, there was always one victim. As evidence, the detective then showed photos of the victims who were suspected to have died due to the suspect's brutality. The first photo showed the suspect's wife, who was found dead on the floor. This was followed by a photo of his mother, who died the following year. There was also a photo of his brother-in-law, who died from eating a poisonous plant. The detective also said that 2 others close to the suspect died under suspicious circumstances. Under the dim light, he continued to present data and evidence, all of which pointed to one name. Despite facing various accusations, the suspect kept a sharp gaze without showing any sign of fear. He continued to insist that he was not the perpetrator of all those deaths. Seeing that attitude, the detective slammed the table hard, the sound echoing throughout the room. He emphasized that all the deaths happened consecutively around the suspect. Therefore, he was convinced that the man in front of him was the mastermind behind all those tragedies. However, the suspect continued to deny it. A few moments later, he actually revealed a shocking fact. According to his confession, all those deaths were committed by someone he called a bastard. That statement left the detective confused. When asked to explain who that person was, the suspect's emotions immediately exploded. He slammed the table. His face reddened. His breathing grew heavy. And he kept insisting that the person he had sheltered and fed was the one who killed them all. Noticing his emotions escalating, several police officers quickly entered the interrogation room to calm things down and asked the suspect to sit. Meanwhile, the detective looked furious because the man kept shouting. Even so, the suspect kept claiming that no one in the room truly knew the person he called a bastard. Slowly, shadows of the past began to be revealed. In a dark, damp warehouse isolated from the outside world, Woo Jin spent most of his life reading books. Each page became the only window connecting him to a world he had never seen firsthand. One of the books he studied discussed the autopsy process in detail. From the suspect's point of view, that collection of readings slowly shaped Woo Jin into a psychopath, eventually leading him to kill those around him. At the same time, thunder rumbled in the night sky. A flash of lightning briefly illuminated the old warehouse, making the atmosphere even more gloomy and tense. However, Woo Jin remained seated calmly, continuing to read and absorb every bit of knowledge, as if the book was the only friend that had accompanied him for years. Meanwhile, time kept passing by. Day turned into night, and people began returning to their homes after a day full of activities. Among the houses that were slowly turning off their lights, only one room remained brightly lit. Woo Jin's room light was still on. Inside the room, he sat on a chair while checking his phone. At that moment, he found a message from Bomi containing a link to a trending video. Without hesitation, Woo Jin opened it right away. Moments later, his face was filled with shock. For the first time, he saw an app filled with so many videos from all over the world. His curiosity immediately grew. Woo Jin then chose one of the videos that caught his attention. In it, a vlogger greets the viewers warmly, then shares that he is currently in Daehakro to watch a theater performance. However, Woo Jin's attention was actually fixed on the opening part of the video. He kept replaying that segment over and over, just to observe how the vlogger greeted his viewers. Slowly, Woo Jin began to imitate the greeting. With his eyes closed, he moved his lips carefully. Word by word came out haltingly, as if he was learning to understand a way of communicating that had always been unfamiliar to him. He kept practicing greeting many people until his pronunciation felt more and more accurate. After opening his eyes, Woo Jin's attention shifted to another video that appeared on the screen. This time, a tteokbokki mukbang video immediately caught his interest. Without thinking twice, he opened it right away. In the video, two girls were getting ready to enjoy the hot tteokbokki they had been waiting for all week. The camera then zoomed in on the dish. Thick gochujang sauce coated the steaming tteokbokki, while melted cheese slowly flowed on top. The sight was so tempting that Woo Jin's mouth almost watered. His eyes sparkled, imagining how delicious the food would be. But just as he was getting absorbed in the video, a knocking sound came from his room door. Woo Jin was immediately startled. A moment later, he heard Bo Mi asking for permission to come in. Woo Jin quickly walked to the door and opened it. In front of him, Bo Mi stood with a warm smile that seemed to bring a bit of warmth at the end of the night. With a confused look on his face, Woo Jin tried to understand why Bo Mi had come to see him. The trauma from his time in captivity made him immediately assume that the call was an order to work. In his mind, he wondered whether he had to clean the house or do other tasks like he had done for years. However, Bo Mi quickly dispelled that worry. Her intention turned out to be very simple, to invite Woo Jin out to buy ice cream together. Hearing the invitation, Woo Jin was immediately confused because he had no idea what ice cream was. Realizing this, Bo Mi patiently explained that ice cream is a cold food that tastes really good. Hearing this explanation, Woo Jin became even more curious. With great enthusiasm, Mi held his older brother's hand. Before leaving, they said goodbye to their parents. Their father and mother reminded Bo Mi to keep holding Woo Jin's hand and not to stop anywhere. Bo Mi assured them that the trip wouldn't take long. Hearing those words, Woo Jin spontaneously repeated what Bo Mi said, like a child learning how to speak. Not long after, they walked to a convenience store to buy ice cream. After passing a busy intersection, the two of them arrived at a Gyu convenience store. Seeing the brightly lit building from a distance, Woo Jin was immediately amazed. His amazement grew even more when he entered the convenience store. In front of him was a row of snacks, instant rice, drinks, and various other products neatly arranged on long shelves. The sight made Woo Jin freeze. His mouth was slightly open. Meanwhile, his eyes kept scanning every corner of the room filled with colorful items. Not long after, Bo Mi called him over to the freezer. There, Woo Jin was once again amazed to see so many ice creams with various packaging and flavors. Bo Mi let Woo Jin choose whatever he wanted. However, seeing that his older brother was still confused, he thought for a moment before picking up an ice cream cone and handing it to Woo Jin, believing that the flavor would suit him. After choosing several ice creams to take home, Bo Mi thought about giving Woo Jin some money so he could learn to pay by himself. However, he changed his mind and decided to pay for all their ice creams. After paying, the two of them left the convenience store and continued their journey. On the other hand, not far from there, a group of high school girls was enjoying a bowl of hot ramen. Unintentionally, their attention was drawn to Woo Jin and Bo Mi, who had just come out of the convenience store. Their gaze was immediately fixed on Woo Jin's handsome face as he tried to figure out how to open the ice cream wrapper. In an instant, their eyes widened. They couldn't hide their admiration for Woo Jin's striking good looks. Meanwhile, Mi just glanced at the female students with a slightly mischievous smile. He could sense that they were starting to wonder if he was Woo Jin's lover. Not long after, Bo Mi smiled warmly and helped unwrap Woo Jin's ice cream. Woo Jin then showed his gratitude, but Bo Mi considered such small things normal to do because they were siblings. After handing back the ice cream, Bo Mi explained that it was sweet and cold, something he should try. Woo Jin just stared at the ice cream in his hand with great curiosity. His mouth was almost watering because he couldn't wait to find out what this unfamiliar food tasted like. Slowly, he opened his mouth and tasted it. A moment later, Woo Jin immediately fell silent. His body froze while the ice cream slowly melted in his mouth. Not long after, Woo Jin's eyes widened. For the first time, he experienced the combination of sweetness and coldness that he had never felt in his entire life. It was as if the world around him stopped at that moment. Seeing Woo Jin just remain silent, Bo Mi started to get confused. She was worried that there was something strange about the ice cream, or maybe the coldness was too strong for someone trying it for the first time. She even signaled that Woo Jin didn't have to force himself if he really didn't like it. A few moments later, Woo Jin finally responded in a very soft voice. In his opinion, the ice cream was very delicious. The combination of sweetness and coldness that filled his tongue felt like a burst of fireworks flooding all his senses. The sensation was truly surprising. He had never tasted food that delicious before. With his eyes starting to well up, Woo Jin once again expressed his amazement. A feeling of emotion welled up inside him. Meanwhile, he continued to enjoy every lick and bite of the ice cream with great enthusiasm. Seeing this reaction, Bo-mi just smiled in amazement. He wondered to himself when his older brother had learned to speak in such a unique way. While reminding Woo Jin to eat more slowly, Bo-mi quietly turned around to make sure that the group of female students from earlier was still watching them. However, Woo Jin's attention was completely focused on the ice cream in his hand. He didn't notice at all that the girls were silently captivated by his handsome face. A few moments later, Bo-mi took out his phone and invited Woo Jin to capture the moment together. He pointed the camera at them. Then he took several photos while the two of them enjoyed their ice cream. After they were satisfied with the photos, Bo-mi invited Woo Jin to go home. They walked while finishing the remaining ice cream in their hands. Not long after, the two of them entered a residential area that was starting to get quiet. Night had fully fallen. Under the dark sky, the streets looked deserted. Only Woo Jin and Bo-mi were left, walking side by side toward home. On the way, Bo-mi opened her phone again and sent photos of herself with Woo Jin to her friends. Not long after, various replies started coming in. Some thought they looked really cute. Some even joked that they would be willing to become the ice cream in Woo Jin's hand just to be closer to him. As Bo-mi was reading the comments, Woo Jin suddenly stopped in his tracks. His eyes widened, fixed on something that everyone else had missed. Without realizing it, he let Mai walk a few steps ahead. Apparently, Woo Jin saw a man hiding behind the wall of a shop. The man was dressed in all black, wearing a mask and a hat, making him look very suspicious. At the same time, Bo-mi turned toward her house without realizing she was being watched. From his hiding place, the mysterious man followed her every move. His gaze moved from Mai's body and stopped at the back of the girl's neck. Meanwhile, Woo Jin kept staring at the man with a sharp gaze, like a wolf watching its prey. Armed with the knowledge he had gathered over years of reading books, he began to analyze every visible detail. Even though the man's face was covered by a mask and a hat, Woo Jin still found some clues. He noticed many scratch marks on the edge of the hat, furrowed eyebrows, tense eyelids, and unusually dilated pupils. All those details stood out clearly in his mind. In fact, Woo Jin realized that the mysterious man had been following them since the trip home with his parents. However, his father and mother were completely unaware of that person's presence. From all his observations, Woo Jin concluded that the man was a stranger, not a resident of the neighborhood where they lived. Not long after, the mysterious man was about to follow Bo-mi toward the house. However, he soon realized that Woo Jin was watching him. Their eyes met. Realizing this, the man immediately gave up his intention. He turned around, walked to the other side of the street with his head down, trying to disappear before anyone else noticed his presence. Even though the man started to walk away, Woo Jin kept watching him carefully. From that brief observation, he noticed that the underarm area of the man's clothes was wet with sweat. He also noticed clear creases at the knees of his pants, as if the clothes had long been used for activities that required a lot of movement. Woo Jin's attention then shifted to the mysterious man's shoes. He noticed unusual pressure marks on the soles of the shoes. The shape was wider than the marks left by a bicycle pedal, so he concluded that the traces came from a motorcycle pedal. His suspicion grew stronger when he saw the mud stains still clinging to the man's shoes. In fact, the surrounding area didn't have any muddy roads or wet soil that could leave such traces. From there, Woo Jin suspected that the man had come from outside their area. Biting the rest of his ice cream cone, Woo Jin kept pondering different possibilities. He estimated that the man was around 40 years old, had a job with irregular working hours, and rode an old motorcycle that was probably used for delivering goods. The way he moved also caught Woo Jin's attention. Some of his actions seemed planned, while others followed well-trained instincts. Though he had a vehicle, the man was suspected of frequently using hillside routes outside the reach of surveillance cameras. From all the clues that had been gathered, Woo Jin concluded that the man lived alone. was not a local resident and was likely left-handed. A moment later, Woo Jin called Bo-mi. The girl, who was still busy looking at her phone, immediately turned around in surprise. Then she followed her brother's gaze. However, Woo Jin assured her that there was nothing wrong and just asked her to go into the house first. Sensing something odd, Mi approached Woo Jin while also observing the area around them. Curiosity made her try to find out what her brother was looking at, but Woo Jin kept asking her to walk ahead. Not long after, Bo-mi grabbed Woo Jin's arm. She reminded him that it was already late at night and their mother must be starting to worry. With a bit of insistence, she urged Woo Jin to go home, realizing that her brother was still not used to being outside alone after years of living in isolation. Under the dim night sky, illuminated by the warm light from the house lamps, Bo-mi kept holding on to Woo Jin's arm. The two of them walked home together because someone was waiting for them at home. The night went on. The light in Woo Jin's room was still brightly lit, in contrast to the streetlights outside that occasionally went out due to a short circuit before lighting up the wet streets again. The light attracted hundreds of insects flying around it. It was midnight. While almost everyone was already asleep, Woo Jin was still standing in front of his bedroom window, staring into the distance. Outside, the rain began to soak the city. Meanwhile, the night felt quiet. In the midst of the silence, a mysterious voice once again appeared in Woo Jin's mind. The voice reminded him that the family was none of his business, and that he shouldn't get involved. However, Woo Jin rejected that thought. To him, they were his family. The voice questioned again how he would protect them. It even belittled him by implying that he would only rely on the police. Woo Jin remained firm. He believed there were many ways to protect those who were precious to him. To him, that voice was not something normal, but a monster that should never have existed in this world. However, the voice kept resisting. It insisted on surviving. It even warned that Woo Jin's innocence would one day cost him his life. While staring at the rain outside the window, Woo Jin became even more determined. He would survive in his own way, and that monster would never be allowed to take control of him. Under the drizzle, Woo Jin stood still with a blank stare. The figure who spoke to him turned out to be no one else. It was another side of his own personality, a dark reflection that had been hidden inside him all this time. With a creepy smile, that dark side once again questioned what made Woo Jin any better than him. If he was called a monster, was Woo Jin really nobler than that dark side? However, Woo Jin did not waver. With full conviction, he asserted that the body was his. Meanwhile, that monster was just another side he had deliberately created. A part of himself that would never be allowed to take control. All this time, fear and anxiety had been the source of strength for that dark personality. Every time fear took over his mind, that figure would rise from the subconscious and take over Woo Jin's body. But now, everything has changed. Woo Jin is no longer its victim. He has learned to control that dark side. He can even awaken it whenever he wants, to use its power for his own purposes. Slowly, Woo Jin closed his eyes. He let the wild side within him emerge. The fierce, sharp-fanged figure merged with his consciousness. In the stillness of the night, he felt something he had long awaited. For him, this was the day that had finally come. A moment later, Woo Jin opened his eyes again. His gaze had changed now. It was colder and sharper. He held his own shoulder while staring at the faint reflection on the window. Outside, the rain was still pouring down heavily. The sound of its drops filled the quiet night. Between the buildings, a man dressed all in black could be seen standing under an umbrella, as if waiting for something. At the same time, the change within Woo Jin became even more apparent. The other side that had been hidden all this time slowly began to take over. Calmly, he walked toward the door of the room, then turned the handle slowly without making a sound. As the door opened, the entire house was already dark. The lights were off, and all the residents were fast asleep. Unaware of anything, without hesitation, Woo Jin left the room, crossed the house, and headed for the main door. In the middle of the heavy rain and the pitch-black night, Woo Jin stepped outside. He went down the steps until he reached the street. In front of him, the man with the umbrella was still standing. In an instant, Woo Jin recognized him. That man was the figure he saw earlier that day, the same person who had been watching him and Bo-mi after they bought ice cream. Woo Jin slowly approached without bringing an umbrella. He let the rain soak his hair, face, and his whole body. Seeing him approach, the mysterious man immediately looked away. Woo Jin stopped again. He raised his palm, letting the raindrops fall onto his skin, then felt the cold water flowing between his fingers. Under the never-ending rain, Woo Jin looked up at the night sky. For him, rain was a gift from nature, a curtain that could hide someone's presence in the darkness. A moment later, he shifted his sharp gaze to the mysterious man. From all his observations, Woo Jin realized that the man had been prepared for a long time. That night's meeting was not a coincidence, but part of a carefully laid plan. Hearing this, the mysterious man finally turned around. His face was filled with confusion, as if he didn't understand what Woo Jin meant. However, Woo Jin kept moving closer. With a calmness that felt threatening, he stared at the man without blinking. To him, all of this was too easy to predict, even boring. The mysterious man frowned in confusion. He had no idea who the young man standing in front of him was. Meanwhile, Woo Jin kept watching him. Slowly, a faint smile appeared on his face. Under the drizzle, that smile radiated the confidence of someone who knew far more than he should. With a calm yet piercing tone, Woo Jin revealed that he knew the man better than he could have imagined. He knew about his lunch habit of often eating black bean noodles, his job as a courier, and even his habit of crossing the hill on an old motorcycle. Hearing that, the mysterious man fell silent. Confusion was clearly written on his face. He didn't understand how someone he had just met could know so much about him. However, Woo Jin didn't stop. In a cold and flat voice, he compared the man to a stray dog that kept wandering around their house. Even so, there was one thing that kept weighing on his mind. He saw cat fur sticking to the man's sleeve. That small discovery sparked a terrible suspicion that the man might be habitually cruel, even killing stray cats for his own pleasure. Under the pouring rain, the atmosphere grew even colder, not because of the weather, but because of the tension between the two figures watching each other in the darkness of the night. Hearing all that, the mysterious man's eyes widened immediately. His head was filled with questions about who Woo Jin really was, and how that young man knew so many of his secrets. Not long after, Woo Jin brushed aside the hair covering his face. His gaze grew even sharper, piercing through the man without the slightest hint of hesitation. Just as the streetlight suddenly went out, Woo Jin delivered a powerful kick. The impact sent the mysterious man flying, crashing to the ground. Pain instantly spread throughout his body. A few moments later, the streetlights came back on. In the dim light, the man could only stand frozen, his face streaked with tears. His fear grew even stronger when Woo Jin tore his own clothes and revealed a body covered in scars. With a cold gaze, he showed his wounds one by one, so many that they could no longer be counted. The sight left the mysterious man even more confused. The mysterious man had no idea what Woo Jin was trying to do. Moments later, the streetlights went out again, making the night feel even more terrifying. In the darkness, Woo Jin slowly knelt down in front of the man until they were very close to each other. With a cold, intimidating gaze, he warned the man not to do anything suspicious in front of him again. His gaze was so sharp, resembling a demon warning its prey. Woo Jin then emphasized that if the man repeated his actions, the scars covering his body would be a preview of the fate that awaited him. Hearing that threat, the mysterious man immediately backed away in a panic. The fear that was once only visible in his eyes now seemed to take over his entire world. Not long after, Woo Jin stood up again. Calmly, he signaled that the man should have understood his warning. If you already understand, there's no point in squirming around anxiously like a maggot on the ground. Without thinking twice, the mysterious man immediately ran away in a panic. He left the place as quickly as possible, as if every second of delay could cost him his life. Soon after, only Woo Jin was left. He stood alone under the pouring rain. After the man left, the night was once again swallowed by silence. Only the sound of the falling rain remained, as if erasing all traces of what had just happened. A few moments later, the streetlights came back on. Under its light, Woo Jin slowly lifted his head and enjoyed every drop of rain that wet his face. For him, the sound of rain was the rhythm of nature that could calm the restlessness in his mind. The next day, warmth once again returned to Woo Jin's life. His family invited him to have lunch together at a restaurant specializing in Korean grilled beef. The second day passed just as pleasantly. His mother took Woo Jin around the city, went shopping together, and then enjoyed warm, sweet, and savory teokochi. On the third day, Bomi invited Woo Jin to watch a movie at the cinema. However, instead of enjoying the storyline, Woo Jin's attention was more focused on the combination of caramel and corn that he ate throughout the movie. The fourth day arrived with clear skies and white clouds moving slowly. Inside the room, Woo Jin sat at his study desk. In front of him lay the book given by Bomi, which contained basic lessons for him. Thanks to his extraordinary intelligence, Woo Jin finished the multiple-choice questions at an unbelievable speed. He moved from one question to the next without a hint of hesitation. Seeing that, Bomi immediately reminded him to read each question more carefully before answering. According to Bomi, the questions shouldn't be answered by simply guessing. However, Woo Jin admitted that he had read all the questions before deciding on his answers. Hearing that, Bomi immediately took the book from Woo Jin's hands. His curiosity grew even stronger. He began to wonder where his older brother had learned all that knowledge. He even suspected that it all came from the YouTube videos he watched. While flipping through the pages, Bomi thought Woo Jin was just guessing the answers. Because of that, he looked for the answer key at the back of the book and started checking them one by one. However, the results were unexpectedly correct. All of Woo Jin's answers matched the answer key. Not a single one was wrong. Bomi's face was immediately filled with astonishment. He couldn't understand how Woo Jin was able to answer all the questions correctly in such a short time. To make sure, he asked again whether all the questions had really been read before answering. With a calm look, Woo Jin confirmed his answer. Deep down, he actually wondered if he had done it well. Bomi's curiosity grew even stronger. He took several other books from the shelf to test Woo Jin's abilities again with different questions. Without hesitation, Woo Jin immediately worked on them. His eyes moved quickly, following each line of text. Meanwhile, he kept answering one question after another without missing a single one. A few moments later, Bomi took the book to check the results. Once again, his eyes widened. Almost all of Woo Jin's answers were perfect. In Bomi's mind, there was only one conclusion. Woo Jin was a genius. However, Woo Jin never considered himself special. He just wanted to be a normal person. He was aware of that. Being normal turned out to be much harder than he imagined. Even so, he was determined to learn about the world that had always felt foreign to him, little by little. Not long after, his gaze shifted to a childhood photo displayed on the shelf. In an instant, dark memories filled his mind again. Since being kidnapped, Woo Jin's life had been filled with physical and verbal abuse. Day after day, he grew up under ridicule and humiliation. His kidnapper kept labeling him with a degrading nickname until that word were ingrained in his mind. Not only that, his strength was also constantly exploited for various household chores. Under threats and pressure, he was forced to do everything, from cleaning toilets to other heavy work that should never have been imposed on anyone. Woo Jin's childhood was spent in a cold and gloomy warehouse. Without a heater or thick clothes, he could only sit among piles of old books, enduring the air that pierced right to the bone. A moment later, Woo Jin turned to Bomi. The girl's face looked gloomy. She couldn't hide her sadness after learning about all the suffering her older brother had gone through. Woo Jin paid attention to every small change in Bomi's expression. Her lowered gaze, raised eyebrows, relaxed eyelids, and the corners of her lips slowly turning downward. From all those signs, he understood that Bomi was feeling sad. Realizing this, Woo Jin did something unexpected. He gently stroked Bomi's head, trying to comfort his sister so she wouldn't be overwhelmed by sadness. After that, Woo Jin sat back down at his study desk. He took a sheet of paper and a pen, then began to write with great seriousness. Meanwhile, Bomi just watched him with curiosity. A moment later, Woo Jin lifted the paper and showed what he had written. Bomi immediately read it. However, a moment later, her eyes widened. The simple sentence written on the paper instantly stopped all her thoughts. Apparently, on that paper, Woo Jin wrote that Bomi should not keep drowning in sadness. According to him, if Bomi's body temperature drops, her immune system could also weaken and make her physical condition even more vulnerable. Woo Jin also explained that sadness can affect bodily functions, even impacting appetite, which can lead to weight gain. as well as increasing the risk of cardiovascular diseases, which are disorders that affect the heart and blood vessels. Not only that, he also wrote that sadness can affect hormones in the body, trigger increased stress, and gradually disrupt sleep quality, even though sleep should be a time for rest and recovery. Even more surprisingly, Woo Jin explained that sadness can activate the hippocampus, causing the brain to require more energy, which eventually leads to a great sense of fatigue, as if all your energy has been drained without you realizing it. Woo Jin even revealed that sadness can also lower serotonin levels, a condition that can potentially trigger depression and even OCD, which is a mental disorder that causes someone to be trapped in obsessive thoughts and compulsive behaviors that are difficult to control. After reading Woo Jin's long and detailed writing, Bomi slowly turned toward him, filled with both amazement and curiosity about how that boy could know so much. With his characteristic innocent gaze, Woo Jin admitted that he has always enjoyed reading various books. In the middle of their conversation, their mother suddenly called both of them, signaling that mealtime had finally arrived. Without wasting a moment, Woo Jin immediately ran out of the room. His enthusiasm was so great. He couldn't wait to enjoy the meal, a meal that his mother had lovingly prepared. Meanwhile, Bomi was still standing silently in her place. She was stunned and couldn't stop thinking about the vast knowledge Woo Jin possessed, something she had never expected before. Day turned into night, and the atmosphere in the settlement slowly became quiet. Silence enveloped every corner, leaving behind a calmness accompanied only by the light inside the house. In his room, Woo Jin lay on his bed while opening a YouTube channel. His fingers selected a mukbang video featuring various delicious dishes, making his eyes fixate on the food that looked so appetizing. He was mesmerized by the appearance of the dishes in the video. Woo Jin imagined how delicious the food must taste. After watching for quite a while, he started scrolling through his phone, looking for another video that could catch his attention. Not long after, his fingers stopped on a malatang mukbang video, which featured a beautiful girl in the video thumbnail. Without thinking twice, Woo Jin immediately chose that video to watch. A moment later, his phone screen showed a charming-looking girl, wearing slightly revealing clothes, greeting her viewers with a very friendly smile. While playing with her finger under her chin, the girl revealed that she would eat 10 servings of malatang, an amount that seemed unusual for an ordinary girl. Not long after, the girl bit her lower lip and lifted flat noodles with her chopsticks. The noodles looked so tempting, with hot steam still rising and a sprinkle of chili powder that made them look very spicy. Meanwhile, Woo Jin stared at the screen intently, completely absorbed in the show. As the girl started eating the noodles, her face immediately turned red and her eyes opened wide. While covering her mouth with her hand and glancing up to the right, she revealed that she had intentionally ordered the highest level of spiciness. It really tasted spicy, but it was still hard to resist. After tasting the flat noodles, the girl moved on to the corn vermicelli she had also ordered, making Woo Jin wonder about the meaning behind each explanation she gave. Carefully, the girl picked up the corn vermicelli with her chopsticks, as it was still steaming hot. Her face remained flushed. However, she showed a satisfied expression and gave a thumbs up, indicating that the chewy texture of the vermicelli was just right. While stirring her food, the girl planned to wrap the vermicelli with cabbage to make it taste even better. While watching intently, Woo Jin's eyes suddenly widened, as if she had just realized something important. He immediately opened the girl's channel and started watching various videos that had been uploaded before. Not long after, he chose another video to watch. With the same friendly smile, the girl greeted her viewers again while showing a stack of ramen she was about to finish. Woo Jin then fast-forwarded the video, watching as the girl played with the pendant on her neck with a slightly gloomy expression, waiting for the water in the pot to boil. With a serious expression, Woo Jin observed the beautiful girl's face, as if trying to understand something deeper than just her mukbang show. As usual, when the ramen started to boil, the girl decided to let her hair down first. Not long after, she got ready to enjoy a pot full of perfectly cooked ramen. This time, Woo Jin's attention was not only focused on the food that looked so delicious, but also on the girl, who had managed to catch his attention without him realizing it. He chose another mukbang video. Just like the previous video, the girl still looked charming and ate a huge amount of food. However, after watching several videos, Woo Jin suddenly fell silent. Slowly, he realized that the girl might have the same fate as him. That realization made him start to question himself, wondering if the feelings he was experiencing right now were something normal. Woo Jin's thoughts then drifted to a conversation with his parents in the living room. At that time, his father once asked him about the dreams he had. Beside them, his mother, who was peeling an apple, immediately scolded her husband because she felt it wasn't the right time to talk about that. His mother then calmed the situation, believing that it was not a problem if Woo Jin didn't have any dreams yet. For her, the most important thing at that time was to make sure Woo Jin lived a healthy and happy life. While holding a piece of apple pierced with a fork, Woo Jin expressed his desire to be an ordinary person, living a simple life as an office worker. Hearing that, his father and mother responded warmly, assuring him that being an office worker was also a good choice, and that Woo Jin could still do whatever he wanted in his life in the future. The next day, Woo Jin went to the police station. He walked alone toward the building with a clear purpose. There was something he wanted to report. As someone who wanted to live like an ordinary person, Woo Jin felt that reporting to the police was something normal. It's something that people usually do when they find something suspicious. After arriving in front of a room, his steps slowly came to a halt. From behind the door, the voice of a detective interrogating a criminal suspect could be heard. Inside the room, Detective Kim Tae-hyun appeared to be showing surveillance camera footage as evidence. His expression showed growing frustration because the suspect kept denying his involvement. Even though the evidence had been clearly shown, the man still insisted that the person recorded on the surveillance camera was not him. He even denied ever wearing a hat like the one seen in the footage. Hearing that denial, Kim Tae-hyun's frustration grew even more. According to him, it wasn't just the camera footage that pointed to the suspect. There were also eyewitnesses who saw the incident directly. In the middle of the interrogation, a greeting was suddenly heard from the direction of the door. Kim Tae-hyun immediately turned his head. Then he fell silent. His eyes widened when he saw the figure standing in front of him. The young man was Woo Jin. Woo Jin had changed so much that Kim Tae-hyun almost didn't recognize him. His face now looked much more mature. His appearance had also changed drastically. Tae-hyun was even amazed to see the young man he once saved, now grown up healthy and handsome. For Woo Jin, Kim Tae-hyun was not a stranger. He was the detective who first freed him from the warehouse where he had been held captive for 12 years, and also the first witness to his freedom. Not long after, Tae-hyun invited Woo Jin to talk inside the police car. When Tae-hyun tried to fasten the seatbelt, Woo Jin's body tensed up reflexively. The trauma from sudden touch still lingered. Realizing this, Hyun remained calm and gentle until Woo Jin slowly began to feel safe again. After the seatbelt was fastened, Tae-hyun patted Woo Jin's shoulder, signaling that he would take him home safely. A smile never left his face. He truly felt relieved to see that the child he once found in a terrible condition had now recovered and was able to speak fluently. A few moments later, Tae-hyun asked his colleague Gi Cheol to take the suspect to the holding cell. Even though he kept resisting and denying, the man was still escorted to the holding cell. Woo Jin watched the incident closely. He began to wonder if such treatment was really standard procedure for criminals, and if most suspects always started by denying all the accusations. That question made Tae-hyun smile. According to him, what Woo Jin suspected is often the case. Many perpetrators immediately claim they're innocent when they're caught. During the conversation, Tae-hyun wondered why Woo Jin was at the police station and briefly thought he might have come to see him. However, Woo Jin instead took out his phone. There was something he wanted to show. Tae-hyun watched with curiosity. He even invited Woo Jin to have a casual chat outside while enjoying a drink. However, Woo Jin's attention remained focused on a mukbang video on his phone. On the screen, a girl could be seen doing a mukbang broadcast. At first glance, Tae-hyun thought Woo Jin just wanted to show him some regular content or a newly discovered YouTube channel. But that wasn't the case. Based on Woo Jin's observations, the girl in the video had a condition very similar to what he experienced in the past. He seriously explained every clue he found. The girl's eyes kept shifting up and right as she spoke, and she repeatedly touched her lips with her fingers. For Woo Jin, the combination of those gestures indicated nervousness, anxiety, or an attempt to hide something. Woo Jin explained that the habit of touching the mouth while speaking often appears as a subconscious response, as if someone wants to take back their words. He then pointed out the moment when the girl bit her lip. According to him, that gesture indicates pressure or anxiety. What feels odd is that the anxiety actually appears when the girl is in front of food. From there, Woo Jin suspected that there was a much bigger problem than just food. He then showed the scene when the girl said the food was delicious. However, the direction of her eye movement showed a mismatch between her words and her emotions. For Woo Jin, the girl was not completely honest about what she was feeling. Woo Jin next turned his attention to the girl's posture. Her shoulders kept hunching forward, as if she was trying to protect herself. According to him, body language like that often appears in someone who is under pressure, afraid, or feels threatened. Instinctively, the body takes on a more closed-off posture as a defense mechanism. He also highlighted several moments when the girl's eyes moved upward and to the left. According to him, that movement shows more of a process of recalling memories rather than making something up. However, the most interesting thing is the girl's habit of covering her mouth afterward. For Woo Jin, that gesture is a clue that she is hiding something she can't express. Woo Jin also noticed when the girl played with her necklace while waiting for the water to boil. According to him, it's not just a regular habit, but rather a subconscious way to relieve stress and calm herself down. After hearing that long explanation, Tae-hyun could only look at Woo Jin in confusion. However, Woo Jin was not finished yet. He revealed that all those clues pointed to one conclusion. The girl in the video was trying to ask for help. Woo Jin then showed several clips. In one video, the girl showed a strand of hair on the table shaped like the letter S. In another video, she deliberately displayed a black hair tie shaped like the letter O. Then, in the next video, there was a piece of thread arranged to resemble the letter S. When these three clues were put together, they formed a very clear message: SOS. The universal symbol for a call for help. For Woo Jin, it was no coincidence. After connecting all the expressions, gestures, and subconscious actions of the girl, he was convinced that they were all intentional messages. That's why Woo Jin believed the girl was in the same situation he once was, when he was a victim of captivity. Woo Jin began to explain that the repeated glances to the upper right, along with the habit of touching her lips, biting her lips before eating, and her constantly hunched posture, indicated someone who was under pressure. The girl also reflexively covered her mouth several times while glancing to the upper left, as if she wanted to say something but couldn't. In addition to her habit of playing with her necklace and the repeated SOS signals in several videos, all these clues made Woo Jin certain that the girl was not just uncomfortable, but was actually being held captive and needed help. Even though Kim Tae-hyun still doubted that conclusion, Woo Jin reinforced his analysis. According to him, the pattern of signals was very clear, starting with a strand of hair, then a hair tie, and then a piece of thread. For him, that sequence was not a coincidence, but a sign that the girl was slowly becoming braver in sending messages without being noticed by the person watching her. Hearing that explanation, Tae-hyun became even more curious about Woo Jin's way of thinking. However, Woo Jin continued his analysis. Based on all his observations, he estimated that the victim was still in their early 20s. He also suspected the girl had no family searching for her or came from a poor background, so her disappearance drew little attention. Woo Jin also did not believe that there was only one perpetrator. From the patterns he observed, he believed that several perpetrators were involved, estimated to be teenagers up to their early 20s. Woo Jin even went further. He estimated that the perpetrator was still in their early 20s and likely did not complete their education, only up to junior high school level. Tae-hyun was still trying to process all those assumptions. He wondered if Woo Jin was saying that the girl in the video was a kidnapping victim, and whether he knew her. With a serious face, Woo Jin admitted that he didn't know the girl at all. However, years of living in captivity, fear, and torture had enabled him to recognize the behavioral patterns of someone who had lost their freedom. Seeing that Tae-hyun was still hesitant, Woo Jin asked a question that sounded like a riddle. He questioned whether coincidence could really reveal the truth. Before Tae-hyun could answer, Woo Jin guessed that the clothes Tae-hyun was wearing were bought by his mother. Tae-hyun was immediately astonished. The guess turned out to be correct. Calmly, Woo Jin called it the first coincidence. His gaze then shifted toward the jail cell. Although he admitted he wasn't a professional, Woo Jin suspected that the suspect had a hobby of playing the violin or viola. According to him, if that guess turned out to be right again, then it would be the second coincidence. Woo Jin's way of thinking made Tae-hyun chuckle. His analysis sounded like that of an experienced criminal profiler. However, Woo Jin emphasized that he didn't want to become a profiler. He just wanted to live as an ordinary office worker. According to Woo Jin, His visit to the police station wasn't to show off his analytical skills, but to report something important. His entire explanation was only meant to make Tae-hyun believe his report. Woo Jin even asked Tae-hyun to directly check his suspicion by asking the newly detained suspect about his hobbies. He was prepared to take responsibility if his analysis was wrong, even if seen as interfering with the investigation. However, Tae-hyun refused. Even though he was still curious, he decided to verify for himself whether what Woo Jin said was true. Before leaving, he patted Woo Jin on the shoulder with a smile, then walked toward the temporary holding cell. Not long after, the door to the holding room closed behind Tae-hyun. Along the way, he could only mutter quietly, wondering why he ended up pursuing such a strange hunch. However, the big change in Woo Jin was also hard to ignore. The child who could barely speak before is now able to speak fluently. He even claims to understand the behavior of people who have lived in confinement. With a confused look, Tae-hyun stared at the clothes he was wearing. Cold sweat began to run down as he kept wondering how Woo Jin could know that those clothes were indeed a gift from his mother. When he arrived in front of the cell, Tae-hyun immediately asked the suspect about his hobby, without much small talk. He wanted to make sure whether the man played the violin or the viola. Unexpectedly, the suspect smiled and admitted it right away. That confession made Tae-hyun widen his eyes again. For the second time, Woo Jin's analysis proved to be correct. On the other hand, the suspect actually started to panic. He was worried that the police had investigated his personal life. He even suspected that his house had already been searched. While the man kept denying the accusations, Tae-hyun's thoughts drifted to Woo Jin. For a moment, he really wondered if that young man was a fortune teller. In fact, earlier, Woo Jin had only observed the suspect who kept denying the accusations. With a calm face, he watched every small movement the man made, then pieced together all the clues like pieces of a puzzle. His attention was drawn to the folliculitis on the suspect's jaw. From that detail, Woo Jin suspected that the man was used to wearing a helmet, mask, head covering, or high-collared clothing for long periods of time. He also noticed shaving marks on his jaw, which further strengthened his analysis. Not stopping there, Woo Jin observed the suspect's palms, which were covered with marks from rope friction. He had considered various possibilities, ranging from fisherman, electrician, jeweler, tailor, guitarist, to violinist. However, his logic and instincts finally led to one conclusion, that the man had a hobby of playing the violin. Not long after, Tae-hyun came out of the detention room with quick steps. After proving for himself the truth of Woo Jin's analysis, he immediately looked for the young man. However, no one knew where Woo Jin had gone. When he returned to his desk, Tae-hyun's gaze fell on a small yellow memo. He immediately picked it up and read it. The memo was written by Woo Jin. It said that what had just happened was the second coincidence. As for the third coincidence, Woo Jin wrote that a mukbang YouTuber with a high school theme was in need of help. At the bottom of the memo, his phone number was also written. After reading the contents of the memo, Tae-hyun could only remain silent. The two coincidences mentioned by Woo Jin had already been proven right before his eyes. Feeling shocked and curious, Woo cried. Without delaying any further, Tae-hyun immediately called Gi Cheol and asked him to find the high school mukbang YouTube channel as soon as possible. A few days later, on a bright afternoon, Woo Jin was waiting for bus number 100 at the stop, along with a few other passengers. A warm breeze blew gently, while vehicles kept passing by in front of him. Not long after, the bus he was waiting for arrived. Previously, his mother had taught him how to use public transportation, including preparing his card before getting on the bus. That day was his second experience riding the bus since returning to normal life. After getting on, Woo Jin tapped his transportation card on the scanner. Once the transaction was successful, he carefully walked to the back seat while holding onto the pole, then sat down and looked out the window. During the trip, he remembered eating with his family. As his father and uncle toasted, Woo Jin enjoyed Korean fried chicken. When asked about his dreams, he expressed his desire to become an ordinary office worker, like his uncle. Hearing that, his father and uncle smiled. They knew that the company where his uncle worked was not an ordinary place. However, considering Woo Jin's intelligence and his ability to solve problems in seconds, his uncle felt that the company was suitable for him. Woo Jin was also interested in visiting, and his uncle told him he could come anytime. The promised day finally arrived. While looking at the route map on the bus, Woo Jin calculated how much of the trip was left. His destination was just 4 stops away, with estimated times of 6, 10, 7, and 9 minutes. In total, 32 minutes. Exactly 32 minutes later, Woo Jin arrived at his destination. In front of him stood a row of tall office buildings with glass walls reflecting the sunlight. The view felt very different from the narrow world that had confined him for years. Upon arriving in front of a magnificent building, Woo Jin contacted his uncle and informed him that he had arrived. His uncle immediately said he would come down to meet him. While waiting, Woo Jin stood in front of the SH Sin Xinhua building, a well-known general trading company. He observed the workers passing by, watching every step and their routines. Silently, Woo Jin felt that this kind of life was what people called normal. A simple life that he had always dreamed of. Not long after, his uncle came over. He wondered why Woo Jin chose to wait outside instead of in the lobby. In response, Woo Jin bowed his head as a sign of gratitude for being allowed to visit. His uncle welcomed him warmly. For him, the visit was not a problem. In fact, he wanted to take Woo Jin around and introduce him to his workplace. Without waiting any longer, they entered the office building together. When they arrived at the lobby, Woo Jin was immediately amazed. The room was spacious, grand, neatly arranged, and filled with cool air that created a professional atmosphere. Seeing that reaction, his uncle just smiled in amusement, then explained the various facilities of the building, including the cafeteria in the basement and the fact that the building was the headquarters of SH Xinhua, with branches spread across various cities. But before the explanation was finished, Woo Jin mentioned the locations of SH Xinhua branches in Guangzhou, Pingtai, Daejeon, Busan, and other cities first. His uncle was surprised. Then he realized that Woo Jin had already learned all that information beforehand. While walking with his uncle, Woo Jin reflected again. He became more convinced that living a normal life actually required learning many things, and it was much harder than he had ever imagined. Not long after, Woo Jin was amazed again when the access door opened automatically after his uncle's ID card was tapped. His amazement grew when he saw 5 elevators lined up, serving the employees coming and going. In the middle of their walk, a beautiful long-haired girl named Hai Rim approached them. She initially thought Woo Jin was his uncle's son, but was immediately corrected that Woo Jin was just a nephew being shown around the office. Hai Rim then nodded while looking at Woo Jin, while Woo Jin returned her gaze with a blank expression. The atmosphere became a bit awkward for a moment. Hai Rim and Woo Jin made things awkward when they both asked if the person they were talking to was still in high school. Hai Rim was a bit surprised because the uniform she was wearing clearly showed her identity. Not long after, the elevator doors opened. The uncle quickly invited Woo Jin in while saying goodbye to Hai Rim. The girl looked a little annoyed. Meanwhile, the uncle just waved his hand casually and said goodbye to her before the elevator started going up. When they arrived on the 7th floor, the uncle invited Woo Jin to enter the office area. Once again, Woo Jin was amazed. In front of him, the employees were busy moving from one desk to another, while others were focused on working in front of their computers. For the first time, Woo Jin stood in the middle of the working world that he had only known from books and his imagination. A world that seemed ordinary to others, but felt so extraordinary to him. His amazement grew even more when he saw an employee speaking fluent Japanese on the phone. On the other hand, several other employees were also taking calls. Employees handled calls in English, and the mix of languages, keyboard sounds, and ringing phones created a work atmosphere that was both busy and professional. On the other hand, Woo Jin saw a woman firmly scolding her subordinate, while other employees remained focused on their work, undisturbed by the surrounding atmosphere. While still observing the office activities, his uncle called him. His uncle invited Woo Jin to sit down and asked how it felt to sit in an office chair, curious if he felt like a real office worker. However, Woo Jin didn't see himself that way. Even so, he became more determined to make his dream of becoming an office worker come true. Not long after, an employee came in with a tense face, bringing news that the business contract with the Saudi side had been cancelled. His uncle was immediately shocked and quickly ordered his assistant to gather the entire team in the meeting room. The sudden busyness forced his uncle to escort Woo Jin only as far as the elevator. He apologized for canceling their lunch at the cafeteria. However, Woo Jin didn't mind. Instead, he thanked him for giving him the opportunity to see firsthand the working world he had always dreamed of. Woo Jin then went down alone to the 1st floor. As all the elevator passengers dispersed, Hai Rim, who had just exited the adjacent elevator, met him again. With a friendly smile, The girl approached him, but Woo Jin only responded with a blank expression. Even though he was silent, his mind kept analyzing. According to his calculations, it was only late morning. A high school student should still be at school, not at a company office. He also recalled Hyerim's conversation with his uncle earlier. The girl spoke calmly, confidently, and wasn't awkward at all in front of adults. As Woo Jin was about to leave, Hyerim arrived, blocking his way and asking if he had received something from the department head. While listening, Woo Jin once again observed Hyerim's demeanor. The way she walked, her body language, and her boldness in entering other people's personal space all showed a high level of confidence. From that, Woo Jin suspected that Hyerim had a connection with someone influential in the company, perhaps an executive or a high-ranking official. If that's true, he felt the need to find out who the girl really was. Woo Jin then replied briefly that he had indeed received something from her uncle. After that, he walked past Hyerim again. That cold attitude made Hyerim upset. She quickly followed him and questioned why Woo Jin was at the office during school hours, even suspecting that he was skipping class. In a flat tone, Woo Jin explained that he really wasn't attending school. That answer surprised Hyerim. Turning around, Woo Jin reaffirmed it, then left the place. However, Hyerim didn't give up and asked Woo Jin to stop for a moment. Firmly, Woo Jin stated that he didn't like wasting time. In his opinion, their conversation was pointless, so Hyerim should stop bothering him and let him go. Such a blunt statement made Hyerim stare in shock. She flatly refused. She didn't expect someone she had just met to speak so firmly. In fact, Woo Jin did it on purpose. He understood that people who are underestimated are usually driven to prove themselves. That way, he hoped Hyerim would unconsciously reveal who was behind her. A moment later, Hyerim stopped walking and looked at Woo Jin with a sharp gaze, full of dissatisfaction at being underestimated. She then put one hand on her waist confidently, as if challenging Woo Jin to guess her identity. From her attitude, Hyerim hinted that she could very well be the daughter of a company CEO. Meanwhile, Woo Jin remained calm in response to Hyerim's reaction. In his mind, this situation required a response that would be considered appropriate. He widened his eyes a little and parted his thin lips, as if he was truly surprised to hear the girl's confession. Seeing that reaction, Hyerim crossed her arms confidently, affirming her identity, as if she wanted to know whether that status made her seem more special in Woo Jin's eyes. Not long after, Hyerim circled Woo Jin while observing him from head to toe. She only glanced over Woo Jin's shoes, shoulders, and face, accompanied by a sarcastic smile that was hard to hide. From that attitude, Woo Jin concluded that after her identity was revealed, Hyerim began to look down on him. Even so, the girl quickly controlled her emotions and put on a calm expression again. After observing him, Hyerim questioned Woo Jin again about why he wasn't attending school. Woo Jin then emphasized that he really wasn't attending school. Hearing that answer, Hyerim actually looked even happier. Then she invited Woo Jin to spend time together because she felt bored. While listening, Woo Jin once again observed every small change in Hyerim's expression. The movement of her pupils, the corners of her eyes, and the curve of her lips made Woo Jin conclude that Hyerim was greedy and tended to see others as entertainment or tools to satisfy her desires. However, Woo Jin also realized that such a trait could be exploited. For him, greed was a string that could control someone like a marionette puppet. Not long after, Hyerim invited Woo Jin to have lunch because she hadn't had a chance to eat yet. With an attitude that left no room for refusal, Woo Jin eventually accepted the invitation. While continuing to observe her, Woo Jin made another assessment. In his opinion, if Hyerim's personality develops without control, she could potentially grow into someone with sociopathic or narcissistic tendencies. Without wasting any time, Hyerim immediately walked toward the exit and asked Woo Jin to follow her. She seemed so confident that she had chosen the best place to eat. Since she didn't explain their destination, Woo Jin became even more convinced that Hyerim was the type of person who expected everything to go her way. A few minutes later, they arrived at a modern restaurant with a stylish, trendy atmosphere. After sitting across from each other, Hyerim once again questioned Woo Jin about why he wasn't attending school. In her mind, she suspected that Woo Jin was undergoing training to debut as a K-pop idol, or was involved in a similar entertainment industry. Calmly, Woo Jin explained that he was taking a different path. That brief explanation only made Hiram even more curious about what Woo Jin was actually doing. Woo Jin then revealed that he was focusing on studying for the equivalency exam. After that, he turned the question around and asked Hiram why she was outside of school during class hours. While fiddling with her hair, Hiram admitted that she got permission to go home early that day. However, Woo Jin noticed something that others had missed. According to his observation, the movement of her pupils to the left and her habit of fiddling with her hair were signs of lying and a subconscious response to pressure. Because of that, Woo Jin questioned the meaning of her words that day again. With his straightforward logic, he concluded that what she meant was her menstrual period. That assumption immediately made Hiram widen her eyes in surprise because she never expected Woo Jin's train of thought. Fortunately, a waiter came over with the menu and asked for their order. While holding back her annoyance, Hiram immediately ordered a full-set meal, from appetizers and main course to dessert, without giving Woo Jin a chance to choose. That attitude further strengthened Woo Jin's conclusion that Hiram had a tendency to dominate others. After ordering, Hiram realized that she didn't know Woo Jin's name yet. Briefly, Woo Jin introduced himself as Shin Woo Jin. Hiram thought his name sounded nice, then introduced herself as Lee Hiram. Not long after, Hiram got busy playing with her phone, while Woo Jin remained silent. In the midst of the crowded restaurant, the two of them barely spoke. The silence gradually started to annoy Hiram. She began to realize that Woo Jin was indeed a very quiet person. With an annoyed expression, Hiram raised her hand. But at the same time, a waiter came over carrying a bowl of hot soup. Hiram's hand accidentally brushed against the waiter's arm, surprising them both. Hiram's face immediately turned annoyed, while the waiter kept apologizing. Even though he stared coldly, Hiram showed that he didn't want to make a big deal out of it. Seeing his reaction, Woo Jin began to wonder if Hiram was actually more sensitive than usual, even though that small incident didn't really harm him. Not long after, Hiram tried to tie his hair while saying it was just one of those days. However, the hair tie slipped off and fell to the floor. Annoyed, he pushed his chair back and was about to pick it up. As Hiram started to bend down, he was suddenly surprised. Woo Jin reached out first to cover the sharp corner of the table. Hiram looked at him in surprise, until Woo Jin explained that he was just trying to prevent her head from hitting the corner of the table while picking up the hair tie. That simple explanation immediately made Hiram's face turn red. With a sharp gaze, Woo Jin judged that Hiram had just gone through a tiring day. Even though she denied it, when Woo Jin thanked her for the chair, he noticed the faint exhaustion on the girl's face. While tying her hair, Hiram sarcastically told Woo Jin to take better care of himself. She even commented that Woo Jin's face looked too pale, then told him to enjoy the soup before it got cold. Woo Jin immediately sipped the soup. Instantly, his eyes widened. The taste far exceeded his expectations. Seeing his reaction, Hiram looked satisfied. According to him, the taste of the soup at that restaurant was on par with one of the famous restaurants in Busan that Hiram had been to before. Behind his expressionless face, Woo Jin realized his bait had worked. He then started asking about the restaurant, as well as who Hiram went there with. Hiram immediately became enthusiastic. She told him that she had once gone there with her friend, Kim Ye-na, and even thought that Woo Jin knew the famous actress by that name. However, for Woo Jin, who had just returned to normal life after being kidnapped for 12 years, that name was completely unfamiliar to him. Hiram just looked at him in surprise, as if Woo Jin was truly isolated from the outside world. Meanwhile, Woo Jin remained focused on enjoying his soup. At the same time, Woo Jin tried to apply regression therapy, which is to recall happy memories through conversations that evoke positive emotions. He then steered the conversation toward Hiram's experiences in Busan and the beauty of the sea there. The result was immediate. Hiram's face lit up, and she began to recall beautiful memories of the night sea and the fireworks festival on the Gwangan Bridge. With great enthusiasm, Hiram described herself standing on a boat, gazing at the sea while watching the sky lit up by colorful fireworks. She said she truly enjoyed watching that scene. It was like an unforgettable living painting. While listening to her, Woo Jin observed the changes in Hiram's expression. He realized that every beautiful memory made the girl immerse herself in happy emotions. Woo Jin then remembered something from a book he had read. The human brain often has difficulty distinguishing between reality and imagination, like when imagining a sour lemon until your mouth starts to water. According to Woo Jin, that's what Hiram was experiencing. Even though her body was still in the restaurant, her mind seemed to be standing there watching again. On the ship, enjoying the night sky filled with fireworks. While continuing to talk about that experience, Woo Jin felt satisfied. Those memories unknowingly became the trigger for the happiness she was feeling. Meanwhile, she became more and more immersed in her precious memories. Her face lit up with enthusiasm as she recalled those unforgettable moments. In the middle of the conversation, a waiter came bringing the main course. High-quality steak, vegetables, and sauce were served on the table. Without hesitation, Woo Jin immediately stuck his fork into the meat. His behavior made Hiram curious, because he didn't cut the steak first like most people do. After enjoying the main course, Hiram was curious if Woo Jin had ever gone on vacation. However, Woo Jin admitted that he had never really traveled. Not long after, the waiter came back bringing dessert, which was mango sorbet with pieces of fresh fruit served in an elegant cup. While enjoying it, Hiram reminisced about his trip to Holbox Island last year. Woo Jin immediately recognized the location as an island in Quintana Roo, on the Yucatan Peninsula of Mexico. With great enthusiasm, Hiram described its beautiful beaches, the calm stretches of sand, the night sky full of stars, and even the lights around the waves that looked like the aurora. However, the story suddenly stopped. Woo Jin immediately stood up from his chair. Hiram was surprised. Apparently, Woo Jin wanted to end the meeting because he had to go back to studying for the equivalency exam. For him, that was much more important than spending a long time at the restaurant. Seeing that Woo Jin was really about to leave, Hiram quickly stopped him. She wanted them to at least exchange phone numbers, saying she could help if Woo Jin ever visited Holbox Island by recommending hotels, restaurants, and other interesting places. Woo Jin fell silent. Behind his calm face, he concluded that Hiram was starting to become interested because their conversation had sparked positive emotions. He even suspected that the girl had issues with emotional attachment or weak family relationships. Woo Jin also saw an opportunity. If he could understand and take advantage of Hiram's weaknesses, he might be able to get a lot of information from her. Finally, Woo Jin handed over his phone to exchange numbers. When Hiram called his number, she was surprised because Woo Jin's phone didn't use a password at all. After the number exchange was done, Hiram returned the phone. Woo Jin then thanked her for treating him to a meal and immediately left the restaurant. Meanwhile, Hiram was still sitting quietly, watching Woo Jin leave with a look of amazement on her face. After paying for the food, she immediately left the restaurant and found Woo Jin still standing alone. Hiram then approached him, intending to ask where he lived. However, Woo Jin did not respond. All his attention was focused on a narrow alley between two buildings, where a man appeared to be brutally attacked. Seeing Woo Jin suddenly freeze, Hiram also turned to look. But before she could see more clearly, Woo Jin immediately blocked her view. He didn't want Hiram to witness that horrifying scene. In the shadow of the building, a man had just been stabbed by a figure dressed in black with a gray hat. Realizing his actions had been seen, the perpetrator immediately fled while gripping the blood-stained knife. Even though it was only for a moment, Woo Jin caught every detail of the perpetrator. Short hair, gray hat, black-collared shirt, jeans, brown shoes, about 180 cm tall, weighing around 80 kg and predominantly right-handed. Without wasting any time, Woo Jin ran toward the victim while calling emergency services 119. In the midst of that panic, one thought kept filling his mind. He just wanted to live a normal life. But now, a man was lying in front of him, groaning in pain with his stomach covered in blood. Woo Jin immediately pressed the stab wound with his right hand to reduce the bleeding, while his left hand stayed on the phone with the dispatcher. Calmly, he reported the stabbing case and requested the police and an ambulance to be sent immediately to the front of Oko restaurant. After that, Woo Jin checked the victim's pulse. He realized the heartbeat had increased sharply due to the loss of a lot of blood. Seeing the condition, Woo Jin immediately asked about the victim's blood type. He also explained that the stab wound in the abdomen was likely causing hemoperitoneum, so the victim might need a blood transfusion as soon as possible. Because his explanation was too technical, the officer asked him to repeat the information. Calmly, Woo Jin explained again that the victim was experiencing severe bleeding due to the stab wound and might need a blood transfusion. He also mentioned that the victim's blood type was B. When the officer asked again about the location of the wound, Woo Jin replied that the wound was on the abdomen. The officer then instructed that the victim should be laid down and the wound pressed with a hand or cloth to reduce the bleeding. However, All those actions had actually already been carried out by Woo Jin. While pressing the victim's wound, he told the medical team to prepare type B blood and quickly send an ambulance to the scene. Amidst the pool of blood, panic, and uncertainty, Woo Jin kept pressing the victim's wound with both hands. However, behind his calmness, there was only one desire that kept filling his mind: to live a normal life. Suddenly, Woo Jin turned when he heard Hirim calling him from behind. Hirim looked truly shaken by the incident. His eyes widened, his forehead furrowed, his tongue was tied, while one hand instinctively covered his mouth. In the midst of that chaos, Woo Jin realized one thing again. Living a normal life turned out to be much harder than he had ever imagined. A few moments later, the sound of ambulance sirens began to echo in the air, breaking the tense atmosphere that had suddenly filled the scene. Very carefully, the medical personnel immediately evacuated the stabbing victim into the ambulance, while several police officers secured the area around the scene. Meanwhile, Woo Jin stood while wiping the bloodstains that were still on both of his hands. Not long after, a police officer approached him and asked for a description of the stabbing perpetrator. Without any hesitation, Woo Jin explained every detail he picked up through his keen observation. He mentioned that the perpetrator had short hair, wore a gray cap, a black-collared shirt, and jeans. Not only that, he also estimated the perpetrator's weight to be around 80 kilograms and approximately 180 centimeters tall. However, before Woo Jin finished explaining his entire statement, the police officer stopped him for a moment. The police officer then took out his phone and asked Woo Jin to repeat everything from the beginning so that his entire statement could be recorded more accurately. After finishing recording all the information provided, the police officer thanked him and asked for Woo Jin's phone number for further investigation purposes. Meanwhile, Woo Jin realized that Hirim was still standing not far from him. The girl just stood there silently, watching him. In Woo Jin's mind, this might be the first time Hirim had witnessed such a terrifying incident firsthand, an event so shocking that it made someone freeze, be at a loss for words, and not know what to do. What's strange is that for Woo Jin, a situation like this is actually a good opportunity. This is Hirim's first experience, a shock that comes so suddenly, like a baby who has just learned to crawl, then dares to stand up and tries to keep their own balance. However, before the baby can understand how to stay upright, they end up falling and hitting the floor. Woo Jin understands that when someone is faced with a very shocking situation, they often stumble in confusion, lose their sense of direction, and don't know how to react. And it's precisely at moments like these that someone who comes to comfort you will leave a deep impression. Woo Jin also realizes that right now, no one else can take his place in Hirim's eyes. A moment later, he approaches the girl. With a calm and reassuring tone, Woo Jin tries to comfort Hirim, assuring her that the shock she feels is normal and that things are much better now. In his mind, Woo Jin knows that such simple words will leave a strong impression, making Hirim remember him long after this incident is over. Not long after, Woo Jin gently pats Hirim's shoulder. He tries again to calm the girl by explaining that the victim was lucky not to suffer more serious injuries, so there's no reason to be overly worried. Like a mother comforting her baby after a fall, Woo Jin continues to reassure her. He reassures Hirim that the perpetrator likely didn't see their faces, will be caught soon, and that surveillance cameras in the area will help the investigation. Slowly, day turns into night. In a luxurious house with modern minimalist architecture, Hirim finally returns to her residence. The spacious and luxurious house stands quietly in the nighttime glow, with a comfortable private room full of amenities. That night, Hirim is washing up in her private bathroom. Under the flow of warm water pouring down from the shower, she lets her body relax after a long and tiring day. The warm water keeps streaming down her face. Hirim slowly closes her eyes, and in the midst of that silence, one image appears again in her mind. The image of Woo Jin, about how that young man moved without hesitation in a dangerous situation, approached the bloodied victim, gave first aid, called emergency services, and stayed calm when everyone else was in a panic. That heroic moment replayed in Hirim's memory, as if it was a scene that kept repeating endlessly in her mind. Hirim was also deeply impressed by Woo Jin. In the midst of such a terrifying situation, Woo Jin didn't allow himself to look at the traumatic scene. Not only that, Woo Jin also tried to calm her down by assuring her that the victim didn't seem to have suffered any serious injuries. So there was no reason to be consumed by worry. As memories of that afternoon's incident flashed through her mind, a faint smile slowly appeared on Hee-rim's face. She also enjoyed the warmth of the water continuously flowing over her body, as if letting all the tension of the day slowly wash away with the strong flow of the shower. After finishing cleaning herself, Hee-rim stepped out of the bathroom. She walked toward her bedroom wearing a loose, oversized t-shirt. Meanwhile, her hair was neatly wrapped in a towel around her head. The luxury of the house could be felt with every step she took. Wearing soft bedroom slippers, Hee-rim walked toward the neatly organized dressing room. The elegant interior blended with the plush carpet, creating a pampering and comfortable atmosphere. Not long after, Hee-rim sat in front of the dressing table facing a large mirror. However, her attention was not focused on her own reflection. Instead, her gaze stopped at the phone lying on the table. While staring at the phone screen, Hee realized that there was still something he hadn't had the chance to ask. Meanwhile, at Woo Jin's house located in the middle of a densely populated neighborhood, a faint light could still be seen shining from inside the dark room. That night, Woo Jin was still awake. He kept focusing on watching videos of people eating on YouTube, silently wondering whether MSG was truly the seasoning of the gods, as people often said. Woo Jin's attention remained fixed on the various dishes presented by the vlogger. Apparently, he was watching a video comparing the taste of premium beef from 6 major cities in Korea. From Seoul, Busan, Incheon, Daegu, Gwangju, to Daejeon. His eyes seemed to widen slightly as he watched the dishes. In his mind, Woo Jin was very sure that one day he had to try all those foods. While he was watching the video intently, a message arrived on his phone. Hee-rim contacted him to make sure he had arrived home safely. Without hesitation, Woo Jin opened the message. Then, he began typing and replying to Hee-rim's message. A brief conversation took place. However, not long after, Woo Jin ended the conversation, saying that he was about to go to sleep. Nevertheless, after the conversation ended, Woo Jin actually resumed the video he had paused. A moment later, a new message from Hee-rim appeared. The girl seemed surprised because it was only 10 p.m., but Woo Jin already intended to sleep. However, Woo Jin chose to ignore the message. His attention was once again fully focused on the video he was watching. The next day, the weather was beautiful and sunny. The blue sky stretched wide, adorned with white clouds slowly drifting along with the morning breeze. On that peaceful morning, Woo Jin, Bomi, his father, and his mother gathered together at the dining table to enjoy breakfast. As usual, Woo Jin looked like he was really enjoying every bite. He also didn't forget to compliment the dishes his mother had prepared. After breakfast was over, Bomi immediately left for school with her father, who also had to go to the office. Meanwhile, Woo Jin returned to his room. He put several books on his study desk, then started working on the problems inside them. With his extraordinary intelligence, Woo Jin was able to solve problem after problem at an impressive speed. As soon as he finished one book, he immediately tossed it aside and moved on to the next one without wasting any time. However, in the midst of his busy studying, Woo Jin's attention was briefly diverted to the phone beside the table. In his mind, keeping the phone close to himself was one of the most important basic rules, a simple habit that he thought should be applied in daily life. Not long after, Hee-rim sent another message, but once again, Woo Jin chose not to open it. For him, ignoring messages was also a normal part of daily life. After that, Woo Jin turned his gaze out the window. There, a small bird was chirping happily in the warm morning light, while Woo Jin sank back into his own thoughts. A small bird perched on the power line, as if presenting its melodious song to the morning that had just awakened. For Woo Jin, the bird's chirping felt like a part of a peaceful, calm, and normal daily life. A life he had always dreamed of. While continuing to work on the problems in his book, Woo Jin realized something once again. Living a normal life turned out to be much more difficult than he had imagined. Because of that, he felt he had to work even harder to achieve it. A few moments later, his phone started ringing. Without wasting any time, Woo Jin immediately answered the call. Apparently, the call was from someone who introduced himself as Kim Myung. the leader of Team 20 Capital. Not long after, the person began to explain the purpose of the call, which was related to business funds and emergency loans. Hearing this, Woo Jin immediately stood up from his chair. Curious, he wondered if he had just won something. At that moment, he remembered a comment he had once read on social media. Someone had once shared tips on how to deal with scam calls or suspicious online loan offers. With a very serious tone, Woo Jin pretended to be someone who truly needed a fantastic amount of money. He mentioned that he needed about 100 billion won. In fact, with an even firmer voice, Woo Jin repeated the same amount, emphasizing that the sum of money he needed was 100 billion won. Not long after, the person who claimed to be Kim Young immediately hung up the phone. Meanwhile, Woo Jin felt quite relieved. At least this time, he managed to apply what he had learned to deal with such scam calls. A few moments later, his phone rang again. This time, the call came from an unknown number. When he answered the call, Woo Jin found out that the caller was Officer Lee Sang-chul from the police station. Lee Sang-chul then confirmed Woo Jin's identity as the witness who had previously reported the stabbing case near Area 20. Without hesitation, Woo Jin confirmed it. After that, Lee Sang-chul asked how he was doing and informed him that the police wanted to ask him to come in to give an official statement as a witness. Not long after, Woo Jin came out of his room. At that time, the house was already pitch dark. It seemed that all the family members had fallen fast asleep in their own rooms. While tidying up and zipping up his jacket, Woo Jin slowly opened the front door. After stepping outside, he paused for a moment. His eyes swept over the house, which was so quiet and peaceful in the middle of the night. When he was about to close the door tightly, Woo Jin suddenly opened it again. He looked into the house seriously. No one came out of their rooms. All the lights had been turned off, and the atmosphere inside the house was so quiet. A moment later, Woo Jin said his goodbyes before making up his mind. In his heart, he thought that this time he would not be late. He also resolved to always return home on time every day, without being even a little late. Not long after, raindrops began to fall, drenching the area around the police station in a gloomy, cold atmosphere. Woo Jin, who was summoned by the police as a witness, walked down the corridor of the police station, which looked deserted and quiet. Inside an interrogation room, a man suspected to be the perpetrator sat with both hands in handcuffs. His gaze was sharp, directed straight at the detective who was interrogating him. However, Woo Jin firmly reiterated what he had said before. He couldn't clearly see the perpetrator's face on the day of the incident, because the hat the man was wearing covered most of his face. In another room right next to the interrogation room, a police officer once again asked Woo Jin for confirmation. The police officer wanted to make sure whether the man sitting in the interrogation room was the same person who committed the stabbing that he had seen during the incident. However, instead of answering directly, Woo Jin's attention was focused on something else. He wanted to know what the suspect was saying inside the interrogation room. Without wasting any time, a police officer immediately pressed a button on the monitoring device to play the conversation taking place in the next room. At that moment, the man wearing the collared shirt could be heard questioning the reason for his arrest, as if he didn't understand why all the accusations were directed at him. The man even kept insisting that he was just an innocent person who had been arrested arbitrarily. With full confidence, he repeatedly denied his involvement, even daring to swear that he was not the perpetrator being sought. However, without him realizing it, a pair of eyes was watching him from behind the observation glass. In that separate room, Woo Jin stood still with a sharp gaze that never left the man. As the man claimed he had never known the victim before and kept denying all the accusations directed at him, Woo Jin observed every small change on his face very carefully. No movement escaped his observation, no matter how small. In the midst of his observation, Woo Jin noticed a bloodstain still visible on the man's hand. Even so, the man tried to explain that the blood came from a wound he got while cooking. Not only that, Woo Jin also saw various small cuts on the man's body, marks that looked like knife injuries. But once again, the man tried to dismiss the suspicion by saying that his inability to cook well was not a crime. On the other hand, a police officer who was in the same room slowly turned his gaze toward Woo Jin. With a look full of curiosity, the police officer waited for the assessment from the young man who had always shown exceptionally sharp powers of observation. A moment later, the question was asked, seeking Wu Jin's opinion after hearing the entire statement from the suspect. With a gaze that remained calm yet piercing, Wu Jin finally delivered his conclusion. From all the words, expressions, and behaviors he had just observed, he became even more convinced that the man was lying. In the midst of the pouring rain, a police officer asked Wu Jin for his opinion about the man being interrogated. Did he think that man was the perpetrator they were looking for? Without the slightest doubt, Wu Jin confirmed the suspicion. On the other hand, the man still stuck to his excuse. He kept claiming that he was just walking around the area where the incident happened. Meanwhile, Wu Jin noticed something interesting. The man unconsciously touched his nose repeatedly. From what he had learned, when someone lies, the body releases catecholamine hormones that increase blood pressure in the nose and eye area, causing an itching sensation that triggers the urge to touch them. Not only that, when the man bit his lip and repeatedly touched it with his hand, Wu Jin saw it as a subconscious response from someone who wanted to take back the lie they had told. Wu Jin also clearly remembered the contents of a book he had once read. When humans face danger, there are usually three main responses: freezing, fleeing, or fighting. And from the way the man crossed his legs, Wu Jin picked up the signal that he was choosing to freeze. Even if the man wasn't the perpetrator, that behavior could still appear as a result of intense psychological pressure. However, when Wu Jin analyzed all of his behavior mathematically and considered every possible scenario, the results pointed to a different conclusion. The man's body language showed clear signs of fear. It wasn't just fear of the interrogation, but fear that his identity would be revealed. A moment later, Wu Jin asked about the suspect's educational background. The police officer beside him explained that based on the information he had heard, the man held a master's degree. Upon hearing this, Wu Jin immediately drew another conclusion. According to him, the higher a person's level of education, the more likely they are to value logical and rational evidence. If the man was indeed the perpetrator, then what he would be most worried about would not be accusations, but rather evidence such as DNA, eyewitnesses, and irrefutable facts. Then, Wu Jin asked another question. He wanted to know whether the police had previously mentioned the presence of eyewitnesses at the scene. While scratching his head, the police officer admitted that they had never conveyed that information to the suspect. The police officer even reminded him that Wu Jin himself only witnessed the incident from a distance. However, Wu Jin actually said that the man would most likely confess if the police told him that there was an eyewitness who saw him at the scene. With a serious expression and unwavering confidence, Wu Jin became even more convinced that the man was the real perpetrator of the stabbing. After expressing his opinion, he asked for permission to leave. The police officer allowed him. But before Wu Jin left, he asked the same question again, to confirm once more whether the man was really the perpetrator. Without any hesitation, Wu Jin gave a short and firm answer. In his opinion, the man was indeed the perpetrator. After leaving the observation room, the police officer offered to take Wu Jin home. However, Wu Jin politely refused right away. Not long after Wu Jin left, the police officer re-entered the observation room. There, he found the suspect still denying all the accusations against him, especially since no one had clearly seen the perpetrator's face. Then, the police officer opened the door to the interrogation room. With one hand tucked into his pocket, he delivered some information to the suspect named Kim Yong-bai. A new witness just arrived and claimed to have seen that man at the scene. Hearing the news, Kim Yong-bai's eyes widened immediately. The look of surprise was clearly visible on his face. It was as if he had never imagined that someone had witnessed his actions. In an instant, Kim Yong-bai covered his face with both hands. His defenses crumbled just like that. In the end, he admitted that from the beginning, he never intended to kill the victim. Meanwhile, the heavy rain that had previously poured down on the city finally stopped. Puddles of water remained in various corners of the streets, bringing a cool and calming atmosphere. After testifying and leaving the police station, Wu Jin stood outside, looking at the clearing sky. A moment later, he looked back. However, it turned out that what filled his mind was not the stabbing case that had just been resolved. Wu Jin instead remembered a bowl of jjajangmyeon he had seen while at the police station. He began to imagine what the food tasted like. Was it really extraordinary? And was it as delicious as it looked? Unconsciously, he was almost drooling. In his heart, Woo Jin felt sure that one day he had to taste that food. Not long after, he decided to leave the police station and check his phone. Apparently, there were many messages from Hi-Rim. She had messaged him several times, but none of them had received a reply yet. Finally, Woo Jin sent a short message. He informed her that the perpetrator of the stabbing had been caught, so Hi-Rim didn't need to feel anxious anymore. Somewhere else, Hi-Rim just stayed silent as she read the message. For a moment, her gaze was fixed on the phone screen, while her mind recalled Woo Jin, who always appeared at the most unexpected times. Even when her friends were talking to her, Hi-Rim remained fixated on her phone screen. The questions her friends asked seemed to just disappear, because all her attention was focused on one person. Not long after, Hi-Rim replied to Woo Jin's message. She wanted to make sure if the news she had just received was true. Her curiosity kept growing. She sent several more questions, asking when the perpetrator was caught, and also questioning why Woo Jin was only replying to her message now. But the reply that came was truly unexpected. Casually, Woo Jin revealed that all this time he had actually been busy ignoring messages from Hi-Rim. For a moment, Hi-Rim's eyes widened. She could hardly believe that someone could answer so honestly and annoyingly at the same time. What made her even more speechless? Woo Jin considered reading messages without replying to them as something completely normal in daily life. After reading that reply, Hi-Rim was truly at a loss for words. A few moments later, a new message from Woo Jin appeared. He reminded her that Hi-Rim's school dismissal time was approaching. Then he asked her to be careful on her way home. Their conversation continued. Woo Jin told her that he was currently taking on a challenge. According to him, if Hi-Rim comes, his chances of success might increase. After school ended, Hi-Rim went to a ramen shop where Woo Jin was getting ready to face the challenge. For Woo Jin, life was always filled with various challenges, and if an opportunity comes, then it's worth trying. Not long after, a large bowl of ramen was served in front of him. The steaming hot noodles were topped with generous pieces of chicken and an appetizing-looking egg. A waiter then explained the rules of the challenge. Woo Jin only had 20 minutes to finish everything in the bowl. If he failed to finish it or ended up vomiting, the challenge would automatically be considered a failure. Meanwhile, Hi-Rim could only cross her arms with an annoyed expression, as if she could already predict the chaos that was about to happen. With chopsticks in hand and a sharp gaze fixed on the ramen in front of him, Woo Jin began to devise his strategy. According to him, the capacity of the human stomach actually doesn't have a fixed limit. Instead, that capacity can keep increasing. That's why his main focus isn't the portion size of the food, but a much more important biological factor, which is the hormone leptin. Woo Jin understands that when someone eats, fat cells will release leptin, which sends a signal of fullness to the brain. That means he has to finish all the food before the feeling of fullness takes over his body. While holding a stopwatch, the waiter asks for a sign that Woo Jin is ready to start. With full determination, Woo Jin declares that he is ready. The next second, his chopsticks immediately move. He grabs a large amount of ramen noodles at incredible speed, then devours them without any hesitation. His movements are so fast that the strands of noodles swirling in the air look like the blades of a windmill spinning rapidly. The sight makes Hi-Rim panic like crazy. She instinctively grabs her own hair, unable to believe what she's seeing. Before her shock can subside, Woo Jin amazes everyone once again. With his chopsticks, he lifts all the remaining pieces of chicken in the bowl at once. Both Hi-Rim and the waiter can only stare wide-eyed. Without hesitation, Woo Jin immediately stuffs the pile of chicken into his mouth. Meanwhile, Hi-Rim is almost driven to despair by such an extreme way of eating. She hopes Woo Jin would eat it little by little, but Woo Jin completely ignores all of that. He grabs the remaining ramen noodles again. Then he slurps them down at an almost unbelievable speed. In no time, the entire contents of the bowl are gone. Then, Woo Jin lifts his bowl and tosses the ramen broth into the air. A moment later, he catches all the flying broth directly with his mouth. Hi-Rim can only scream hysterically as she watches the performance, which feels more like a circus act than an eating competition. Not long after that, the giant ramen bowl was completely empty without a single bit left. Woo Jin immediately hit the stopwatch to stop the timer. The waiter stood there in disbelief. No one had ever imagined that someone could finish the challenge in just 7 minutes and 29 seconds. Meanwhile, Woo Jin finally leaned back in his chair, feeling extremely full. Amidst the satisfaction filling him, a simple thought crossed his mind, making him smile to himself. In his opinion, such a great achievement deserved praise from Bomi later. On the other hand, Hae-kirim could only stare in astonishment. She truly didn't expect Woo Jin to be able to finish that much ramen. His disbelief made him wonder if Woo Jin had ever thought about becoming a YouTuber or doing something similar. However, Woo Jin immediately dismissed the idea. For him, things like that aren't part of a normal life. Meanwhile, Hae-kirim just got even more annoyed. In her mind, finishing a giant bowl of ramen in such a short time was far less normal than becoming a YouTuber. After successfully completing the challenge, Woo Jin left the restaurant and thanked them for the meal he had just enjoyed. Not long after, Hae-kirim questioned whether Woo Jin's stomach still had room for a latte. Without any hesitation, Woo Jin stated that having dessert after a meal is a must when going out with a woman. On the way, Hae-kirim once again asked if Woo Jin realized that he was quite strange. But as usual, Woo Jin saw everything from a different perspective. He responded by asking if that wasn't actually something normal. Not long after, they arrived at a cafe to enjoy some coffee. As he sipped the iced latte he ordered, Woo Jin looked surprised because the drink turned out to be sweet. Meanwhile, Hae-kirim could only lean back in her chair, feeling that Woo Jin really needed to stop watching too many videos on YouTube. However, Woo Jin once again didn't really care about what Hae-kirim was thinking. His attention was completely taken by a piece of chocolate cake in front of him that tasted really delicious. As dusk began to cover the sky, a driver came to pick up Hae-kirim to go home. Just before getting into the car, Hae-kirim invited Woo Jin to get in as well because she intended to give him a ride home. However, Woo Jin calmly refused right away. He chose to walk so that the food in his stomach could be digested better. Hearing that reason, Hae-kirim finally said goodbye. She immediately got into the car, while Woo Jin reminded her to be careful during the trip. Just after the vehicle started to drive away, Hae-kirim's gaze was still fixed on Woo Jin, who was standing by the side of the road. In her mind, Woo Jin was indeed a strange person. But at the same time, a smile slowly appeared on her face, because she also felt that Woo Jin was someone unique in his own way. Night fell. Woo Jin finally arrived at his house. Instead of taking a shower or changing clothes right away, he sat on the edge of his bed and started watching food videos on YouTube again. Suddenly, a call from an unknown number appeared on his phone screen. For a moment, Woo Jin just sat in silence, wondering if he had won some kind of lottery again. Not long after, he answered the call and found someone asking if he was Shin Woo Jin. Without hesitation, Woo Jin confirmed it. Then he immediately tried to guess whether the call was from an online loan service or just an attempted scam. The person who contacted him was Kim Tae-hyun, the detective who once rescued him from the warehouse where he was held captive for years. A moment later, Tae-hyun brought up their previous conversation about a mukbang YouTube channel involving teenage students. He explained that all of Woo Jin's suspicions turned out to be true. The victim was indeed around 20 years old, and the perpetrator was not just one person, but a group. Tae-hyun also revealed that the victim and the perpetrators knew each other through a community of kids who often ran away from home. Because the victim also often disappeared from home, their family rarely looked for them. After hearing that explanation, Woo Jin immediately understood the bigger picture. According to him, the group of runaways probably committed the crime believing that no one would be suspicious or question the victim's whereabouts, even when they appeared on YouTube while actually being held captive. A moment later, Tae-hyun revealed that Woo Jin had saved someone's life. He was still curious about how Woo Jin was able to figure out all those clues from the beginning. However, instead of satisfying that curiosity, Woo Jin was more interested in finding out whether the victim managed to return home safely. Leaning back casually in his chair, Tae-hyun explained that the victim had now returned safely. Thanks to information from Woo Jin, the police were also able to solve the case. As a form of gratitude, Tae-hyun intended to treat Woo Jin to a meal and began asking when he would have some free time. Hearing this, Woo Jin immediately furrowed his brow. His gaze turned very serious. It was as if someone had just told him that he had won the lottery. At that moment, Woo Jin felt that an opportunity he had been waiting for all this time had finally appeared just as he had planned. With high hopes, he then asked if the meal could be meat instead of rice. Without hesitation, Tae-hyun agreed to the request and let him choose whatever he wanted, and without caring about the price at all, Woo Jin immediately mentioned the choice that had long been on his mind, which was grade A Hanwoo. Number 9. Okay, the story ends here. Hopefully, all of you were entertained by this content. My highest appreciation goes to all the creators behind this comic with its interesting story. I hope this retelling can be the best tribute to their work. Please continue to support the original comic. The title is available in the description. Creating quality content truly takes time and patience. From the narration, cleaning up the images, to the editing, everything is done as thoroughly as possible for the best viewing experience. So, please be patient while waiting for updates from me. Or if you can't wait, you can read the original comic directly. If you like my content, don't forget to like and subscribe. Also, share your thoughts in the comments section. And remember, let's respect each other's different tastes. I hope you all stay healthy. See you again with more interesting content.